She took me to a stand-up comedy show that night. I saw Patrice O'Neal. I saw Sarah Silverman. I'd never seen anything like it. I didn't know anything about stand-up. I never even considered stand-up. I wasn't a huge stand-up fan growing up. I had Andrew Dice Clay's cassette because my mom's deaf, and it was kind of fun to listen to Andrew Dice Clay with my mom driving. But did I have some sort of like aspirational relationship with stand-up? No, I never even thought about it. I never even knew that it was a thing people could do. But there I was in New York City with... Are you wanting me to enter right now?
No, just come on over. I'm just letting you know that I'm recording already. There's no like...
I don't know if there's some...
Yeah, no. You're going to be here, all right? And we have a rule in this place. Keep it on the brown. I already fucked that up. Yeah.
Are we in?
Go ahead.
We're in?
Well, yeah, this is the fun little like...
This is fun.
Know each other. I'm getting the coffee.
This is cool.
The guests join us in the living room.
So far, this is really fun. What percentage of the episodes of this podcast start off with you having to explain the why I just washed my hand, why I have to sit on brown, why I have to take my shoes off? Is that like been done?
No, people know. People are fans. Most people that come on.
But you know me, I'm definitely big time not a fan.
Okay, well, we mark that. We'll maybe edit that out.
But I don't want to bore your listeners with a re-explanation.
If we don't want to bore my listeners, I wouldn't have invited you on as a guest.
Hey, hold on. We're going to edit that out. Wait.
One for one.
Okay, we keep both in and we edit both out. That's the choice.
Okay.
All right.
We'll figure it out in post. So you're a no headphones kind of guy, huh?
Oh, I'll do headphones. I love a headphone. It actually makes me perform better. But then again, are you a no headphones kind of guy?
Oh, I'm a headphones guy.
Oh, let's do it. I want to hear that voice.
Believe me, if anybody likes to hear themselves talk, it's us. Theme music.
Scoot doo, blabbity blue, scoop dee. Oh yeah!
All right, I'm in. I can hear myself, and I can't hear you yet. You're still... Oh, okay, you're doing a thing.
Yeah.
Rick, what's up, man? Thanks for coming to the show. Appreciate having you on, and thanks for taking your shoes off.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to have you here, and as we say on the podcast, stick it in the brown.
Yes. Yes.
Stick it in the brown, my friend.
To the brown.
To the brown.
To the Browns. Go Browns.
Go Browns. You know me, a classic Ohio football man.
Yeah.
Are you from Ohio?
Yeah. Still am.
Oh, you always are, I guess.
Yeah.
Do you know where I'm from?
Originally, you're from the East Coast, either New York or New Jersey.
No, I'm a Jew though.
I know, but I knew you grew up in Los Angeles.
I didn't.
Oh, because the Wikipedia told me that you were from New
So
York.
you just read my Wikipedia before I came down?
Not before you came down, but like once I knew you were coming on. I always just look where people are from.
You were in the Bill Lawrence show.
One sec. Where are you from?
Undateable. And also, you recently...
Did you think the police
like
siren was your phone?
No, it's like that. You know that interview where you can tell the person
so you're
read
from
your IMDb directly before you arrived. I'm from the Bay Area. I'm from Oakland, California. That's what it sounds like there. Classic foghorn Bay Area.
That's how people in San Francisco or that area go,
Yeah, they emulate the foghorns they listened to growing up. You know, I never heard a foghorn my entire childhood. I don't think we have foghorns.
You didn't watch Looney Tunes?
I saw Foghorn Leghorn.
Now, someone needs to fix your Wikipedia, or I don't remember what I read.
Oh, so we do. Do we do the various impressions? How many impressions can you do?
I mean,
do you have a lot?
Yeah, I could do Donald Trump. I could do Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Arnold Schwarzenegger is difficult. That's one of the more challenging ones.
Yeah,
that's why almost no one in comedy does Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Have you ever tried Arnold?
He's kind of like,
hello.
That's wow. Dude, one time, by the way, Rick, you're gonna love this story. One time, I was at a restaurant in Beverly Hills. It was like the most old Hollywood restaurant. I've never seen anything like it. It felt like if you were a podcaster, and I don't consider you one, if you were a podcaster and you just wanted to like get an old Hollywood episode going, you could just arrive at this restaurant.
Was it Hamburger Hamlet?
No, it was this place right in the middle of like, you know, Agent Town. And it was, everybody in there looked like they produced a Steve McQueen film and then got in trouble for sexual assault in the 70s. You know, it was that kind of place. Anyway, I walked in like everybody you walk by, you wanted to talk to and just be like, who are you and what did you do? And I walked in, and guess who was right there at the check-in?
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Arnold frickin' Schwarzenegger. Yeah, himself.
Do we have a table in the back?
I come here a lot. And he gave me this look, which I can only imagine is the look he gives everyone.
Could I guess? Because I
please.
have an interaction with him.
I'd love to hear it.
I was getting an MRI. I won't tell you where.
Yeah.
And Arnold Schwarzenegger walked by. We were both in gowns, and he saw me, and he gave me a nod. And I also have thought this must be how he greets people. He gave me a hello, a point, a nod, as if he were doing me a favor.
Yes, 100%. It was the look was yeah, it's me.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you're stoked. This is awesome for you. I'm aware of that, and I'm going to give you just the littlest zhuzh of attention. And I love. By the way, he was right. I loved it.
Spot. I'll tell you, he was way more accurate than my MRI. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Moshe, listening to you is fantastic, but listening to Audible on Alexa is the perfect hands-free companion for when you're cooking, cleaning, or just relaxing around the house this holiday season. Alexa customers could listen to A Christmas Carol narrated by Hugh Grant on Alexa for free the entire month of December. Just say, Alexa, read A Christmas Carol. Offer only available in the U.S. This episode is sponsored by the Freeze Pipe. So for the smoothest smoking pipes, bubblers, bongs, and dab rigs, visit thefreezepipe.com and use code TISO for 10% off your order.
There's only two places I like to smoke. First of all, Rick Glassman's house. Second of all, Dairy Queen. They've got a secret passageway in the back.
That's thefreezepipe.com and code TISO for 10% off. Shop today. Shipping is always free. Your throat and lungs will thank you. And we're going to see you smoking a little bit later in the episode.
I can't wait. Who said that? Santa.
This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. As the world's largest therapy service, BetterHelp has matched 3 million people with professionally licensed and vetted therapists, available 100% online. Plus, Mr. Chris Kringle, it's affordable. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to match with a therapist, and if things aren't clicking, you could easily switch to a new therapist anytime. It couldn't be simpler. No waiting rooms, no traffic, no endless searching for the right therapist.
Learn more and save 10% off your first month by going to www.betterhelp.com/TISO.
That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/TISO.
I only do open MRI or something like that. But yeah, that's exactly what the look was. And you just felt like he walks through the world doing that to people. Just like, hey, this is an awesome fucking day for you because you just saw Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Now, do you think he does that to avoid the I'm so excited to see you by jumping?
Oh, he heads it off, you think?
For example, I don't like how you doings because fine, how are you?
Sure.
Great. I actually thought about doing merch saying fine, thanks, how are you? So when someone says, how you doing? I could be like, do you think there's a shorthand where he just goes, I know, which also kind of ends it?
You can't then go, hey, guess what? You're Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I know. I already gave you the you're welcome nod.
Yeah, you know me. I have a brain aneurysm, and that's why I'm getting this MRI.
It's not the tumor.
Oh, it was. Maybe wasn't a tumor that day.
Right.
That's what he was trying to figure out, if whether or not it was a tumor. I also saw once Ron Howard, and in the same actually neighborhood, I was pulling into my agent's place. And I pulled up. You ever have one of these experiences in LA? I feel like LA is filled with these experiences where you look at someone. This is a little different, but like you do like really loud sips. Is that kind of part of the?
We edit and sometimes even louder. Yeah,
oh, that's cool.
We do sip comedy.
Hi.
That's how I come. So I don't know if you could call that funny, but it's a performance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Performance of a lifetime. Gulp, 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 gulp.
Sometimes sex, there's like, it depends on the energy, right?
Yeah.
You do drama.
Yeah, I'm actually a fine actor. I did. You know that
Same.
I do have a degree from Yale.
I didn't read that far down your Wikipedia.
No, I went to Yale.
Yes, and what did you study?
I studied mechanical engineering.
But then what does that have to do with a theater degree?
Nothing. I just like to bring that up. Also, an interesting fact about my degree from Yale.
Factoid. If you're a college graduate, it's a factoid.
A factoid about it. I did not go to Yale.
So it is a fact.
It's a lie. It's two facts and a lie.
Now, am I supposed to guess which are which? Because
I haven't even given you the
other
two.
fact or the... you
the two facts.
Right.
And now I've also told you what the lie is. So I've kind of subverted the whole game.
I also am a dramatic actor, so I could pretend.
You knew
I don't know.
You knew that I didn't go to Yale when I said I went to Yale?
It's hard to say.
We'll find out later in the episode.
Cut to
Yes.
and we're back.
But this experience in LA where you walk up to someone and you go,
Do it.
do I?
I'm Ron Howard.
Oh, no, Ron Howard's a different interaction. But this is the experience that I have, but it's a silent experience. I look at you.
Who could I be?
That's
Bill Nye.
That's the game, though. It's, you look at someone and you go, do I know you from Oakland, from Burning Man,
Or
from
something I've
my
seen you
years
on.
of AA, or are you Brad Pitt? Like, you truly don't know. But anyway, I pulled up on Ron Howard, and my brain goes, we know him.
I'll be Ron Howard, but you don't know who I am yet. Honey, I think I'm hungry.
He was screaming at his wife. And I just went like this. I just waved hello like he was my old friend.
Right.
And I was so embarrassed afterwards because I didn't need to wave hello to Ron Howard. Usually if I'm around a celebrity, I'm much cooler than that. But because
Are
he
you?
was... Yeah.
Because since you've met me, you haven't stopped yapping.
Well, I just consider Ron Howard... I consider you obviously hotter than Ron Howard right now. And obviously your star is more on the rise. But I don't consider you as big of a cultural icon
Right.
as Ron. And I don't mean that in an offensive way.
I don't like that you said it, but
Right.
I think I understand your intention. You know, I worked with Ron Howard.
On what?
Angels and Demons.
And
Boy, are my arms tired.
he made you fly.
Well,
Was that that was a Dan Brown thing?
I don't like to talk about other people.
The guy that wrote the book. It's from the
It's a sequel to Da Vinci Code. I did background work on
Dan
it.
Brown. Oh, you were an extra in
Yeah. It was one of the first-
He didn't work with
We
Ron
worked
Howard.
together. I took direction from him.
What did he tell you to do?
Get out of my way, kid. I'm hungry.
He thought you were his wife, to be fair.
That's not the first time that's happened.
Yeah, because they're not supposed to, the director's not supposed to talk to you, to give you directions.
there's one of the
It's
facts.
illegal. That's illegal.
Well, this was pre-COVID.
No, before COVID, always.
yeah. Oh.
Directors can't direct extras. It's against the rules.
I didn't know that.
It has to be the AD.
I didn't know that, but this is he's at that level because he would come out and sometimes Tom Hanks came out and they were like, thank you all for doing this, and I said one day I'm gonna have a podcast, Mr. Hanks.
And have you had Tom on?
I haven't.
Do you want me to help hook that up?
How do you know Tom Hanks?
Well, me and his nephew went to mechanical engineering school together.
Now where is this?
That was at Princeton. Now, often people, when they tell you what
I
their
have
alma
I
mater
have
is,
two
they have
lies
to
and a
pause.
fact.
Right.
Fact, you went to Yale.
Yeah.
Lie, directors can't direct background. Lie, you went to Princeton with Tom Hanks' nephew.
I never studied mechanical engineering. I didn't go to Yale or Princeton, and directors cannot direct extras. Do you want to hear the best story I've ever heard about a director and an extra?
What do you guys think? Come on, what do you think? Do you want to hear it?
Please, let me tell
All right,
you.
how about this? How about I'll fill up my coffee? All right, I'll fill up my coffee, and right when I do, he'll tell it.
All right, it was on Human... Oh, you're leaving?
I'm just gonna fill up my coffee.
Well, guys, the story goes, it was on Human Giant. And Jason Wolner, the great comedic director, directed the new Borat film. I mean, he's just a great comedic director. And he is directing a crowd scene, and he's looking in the monitor.
A crowd what?
Like a crowd scene. There's a crowd there. And he's looking in the monitor, and he sees that there's somebody in the crowd wearing vampire teeth, like Dracula teeth. And he goes up, it's an extra. And he goes up to the guy and says, I'm sorry, are you wearing vampire teeth? And the extra goes,
What's wrong with that?
the extra goes, yeah. And he goes, okay. Jason says, could you take him out, please? And the extra goes, okay. I thought this was a comedy.
Is that real?
Yes, that's real.
Two lies, two facts.
That's,
Interesting.
I don't know if that's a fact. It's a story I once heard.
Anecdote.
I wasn't
Anecdote.
anecdote.
Antidote.
It's a little bit of an antic because the guy was up to no good, and it's the antidote to any kind of it's having a bad time. Cheers.
Cheers. Speaking of cheers, there's a song from The Simpsons that I love in the Flaming Moe's episode. It goes like this. When the weight of the world has got you down and you want to end your life.
Yeah.
Bills to pay, a dead-end job. If you don't know it, just let me do it. Problems with a wife. But don't throw in the towel, because there's a place right down the block where you... I feel like I could do that without the head voice. Well, don't throw in the towel, because there's a place right down the block
Is this your best
where
singing
you
voice?
can drink your miseries away.
What would you guess? Oh, sorry.
Me most. It's okay. Go ahead.
What would you guess my singing voice is like? Would you guess it to be good?
I would guess that you croon where your best version of it is singing in a voice of yours, like almost how you talk with a little melody.
Uh-huh. I have what's called a bass, I believe. I believe that my voice is a bass.
Could I hear you try this? Baby, lock them doors and turn the lights down low.
Oh, that song. Okay. I think I can go lower than you. You don't mind if I clear my throat for
I don't
about
love
20
it.
minutes? Oh, you don't like it?
I don't love it.
Okay, right. But have you ever have you been in love?
Yes.
Better lock them doors and turn the lights down low.
Baby, not better.
Oh, baby, lock the doors and turn them.
Them
What?
lights.
Them. What did I say?
The.
Baby, lock the them.
Yeah.
Baby, lock them doors and turn the lights down low.
Let me see if I can.
Turn the music up
on the
nice
soft and
and slow. 'Cause we ain't got no place to go. What's the next song? I hope you understand.
Baby, I've been thinking about
You sound asthmatic. Baby, I've been. Hold on.
You sounded like Scooby-Doo. Baby, I've been thinking about this all day long.
Baby, I've been thinking about this all day long. That's nice. God.
Baby. Are you lower? Yeah. I think you're lower.
Baby, lock them doors. Do you want me to go as low as I possibly can? Let's see if that works. Baby, lock them doors and turn the lights down low. Turn the music up nice and slow. 'Cause we ain't got no place to go. I hope you understand.
I've been thinking about this all night long.
Actually, a good song.
And the music on the soft and slow.
Fay Ray got eaten by King Kong.
I can
Welcome to Flamin' Moe's. Now you're going a little bit more like Perry Cuomo kind of.
Isn't
like,
that the governor that got arrested for being in New York?
that was Mario? Wait, Perry. There's a crooner. You stopped being country and you went into crooner is what I was trying to say. I don't know who Perry Cuomo is. Am I allowed to look stuff up during the podcast?
We try not to do that.
Okay, that's against the rules.
We look it up after.
Okay. Could you mark that? Look it up. Thanks.
And now we see it. Right.
Oh, I knew it was that guy.
Yeah, I was thinking
That
of,
dude's a trip.
I don't like to talk about other people.
Right, fair.
So is this your first time on Take Your Shoes Off?
This is my first time on a podcast.
Really?
Yeah.
Because you were in prison for a while.
No, I just I didn't know they were hot. And then I read this article in Forbes. My dad is Steve Forbes.
No. I
Yeah.
didn't.
That's how I got into Yale. And it said that podcasting is this boom industry or whatever. And there's all these really popular ones. And so I thought, why not?
Do you always read your father's stuff?
Yeah. He makes me.
Do you live
I
near
live
him?
I live with my dad.
You and Natasha and your dad and your...
And my child. We all live with Steve Forbes, my father.
And
I call him Steve Forbes, my
Yeah.
father.
Well, we know.
Yeah.
Is your mom around?
My mom, wait, I don't know how to answer this. Yeah, my mom is around. Well, she lives in Scandinavia.
That's got to be tough.
Tina Turner.
Tina Turner is your mom?
Mm-hmm. Not biological, but yeah.
Right, but she's like the mother to
No, she
your art.
adopted. No, it's official. She adopted me.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, she's my mom. That's mom. I have a biological mom, but I 23 to meet her, and I met her, and it was, they say don't meet your heroes, and don't meet my mom.
Your mom got 23 in Mead?
Yeah. She got
Tina
23
Turner
and
got 23 and Me Too.
No, getting 23 and Me Too is where they look up.
Me Too 3.
They look up your DNA and they find out that you come from many generations of sexual assaulters.
I don't like to, and I'm not trying to negate your joke there. I know that's a joke. I don't like to make joke about sexual assault. There's nothing funny about that. We'll be right back.
I think there's a wait. No, I'm saying it's bad.
We're back now.
No, you wait. You
Moshe,
cut it off before I explained that I was a good guy.
Oh, now you want to do that? It's too late, Moshe.
23 and Me Too means that you come from many generations of activists that create hashtags to stop systems of oppression.
23 and Me Too is a shows the line of all the people that you're related to that have done some type of sexual assault.
Wait a minute. Can we mark that? I don't like to joke about that.
I'm not making a joke about it.
He was doing under the camera doing this kind of movement.
I want you to, whenever he was talking just now, make this the voiceover. I'm Moshe and I hate women.
No, wait, no one's gonna believe that's me. You know why no one will believe that that's me? It's not deep enough. I'm Moshe and I hate women. That's
just
more.
Use that one.
Feels, yeah, you can use it.
We do have a good time on this podcast, and that's why we still do it.
That's beautiful. That is really nice.
So you have a podcast with your. When I say late wife, I mean because she's never on time. And that's because your father told you how hot podcasts were? Let's cut the shit. Let's cut the shit.
You want me to get real?
Take your glasses
You want
off.
me to get real? Yeah. I do a podcast with my wife, Natasha Leggero. I didn't go to Yale. My dad's not Steve Forbes. My mom's not Tina Turner. I did grow up in Oakland. My degree's in religious studies. At one point, I thought I was going to become a religious studies scholar, but then I realized research wasn't really for me. It wasn't really going to happen that way. What I really liked was teaching, the idea of teaching and the idea of being in front of a crowd. And obviously, there's a direct port there into stand-up comedy. So that's what happened there. I was also studying theater and playwriting, and at a certain point, I thought to myself, well, maybe I'll become a monologist like Eric Bogosian or the late, great Spalding Gray. And I wrote these really dramatic and sort of saccharine, over-the-top kind of long-form monologues. And I thought, maybe this is my destiny. But then I took a strangely fated trip to New York one summer because I was in study abroad in Israel, and it was at the height of the Second Intifada, and they canceled the program. So I happened to go to New York that summer. Had I not gone to New York that summer, my destiny is totally different, but I did. And I connected with an old friend, Chelsea Peretti, who was doing stand-up comedy. She took me to a stand-up comedy show that night. I saw Patrice O'Neill. I saw Sarah Silverman. I'd never seen anything like it. I didn't know anything about stand-up. I never even considered stand-up. I wasn't a huge stand-up fan growing up. I had Andrew Dice Clay's cassette because my mom's deaf, and it was kind of fun to listen to Andrew Dice Clay with my mom driving. But did I have some sort of like aspirational relationship with stand-up? No, I never even thought about it. I never even knew that it was a thing people could do. But there I was in New York City with Chelsea Peretti, and she was doing it. And I thought, wow, we went to the same middle school. If she does stand-up, I could do stand-up. So I said to her, by the time you come to the Bay Area, this was in June, she was coming in August, I said, I'll have written 5 minutes of material. She did, I did, and then we went to the Luggage Store Gallery that night. I did 5 minutes of material. I still remember the joke I did that first time, and I got a laugh. Now, when I got that laugh, my destiny, my fate, yeah, it was sealed. Kaplow. So I went to, and then it becomes a much more traditional stand-up story where just week after week, I'm going to the club, I'm trying to get stage time, I'm doing open mics, and eventually things happened enough for me that I made the decision to move down to LA. When I got to LA, I didn't even know Natasha Leggero, my wife. I knew her from around because all stand-ups kind of know each other, sure. But we became friends, and she was dating other people, and I never even considered it, and I was having a lot of fun just sleeping with whoever would sleep with me back. I was having a lot of fun touring around. I finally became a headliner. I finally became a comic that could get paid to do what I loved. And then years went by, and she was single, and I was single, and we connected, and romance happens when you're not even expecting it. Sure, I was going to therapy to work on my intimacy issues to get ready for the relationship that might come. Sure, I adopted a dog to get me prepared to live with somebody else, absolutely. But at the time that she arrived, it's like, there it was. It was time for me to get serious, and we did. And we fell in love, and we got married, and we had a child, and we did a Netflix special together, and we did a tour, and then we started a podcast called the Endless Honeymoon Podcast, where we give relationship advice to other people. And yeah, it's a pleasure to have a podcast. I know what podcasts are because I have one myself. It's not even my first podcast or my second podcast. This is the third podcast I've done, and I know what podcasts are, Rick, and I'm just glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
It sounds tough, man.
It was hard, definitely.
Now, Spalding Gray was late all the time as well?
He's actually was late, but is dead. Spalding Gray died. Do you know Spalding Gray?
I don't.
He was a monologist. He was kind of like,
Well, I figured he was a monologist. That's all you gave me. Of him.
he was like one of these guys that would like, do a theater
Like
show.
what you just did.
Yeah, but well written and interesting.
Well, I thought what you did was
The choice I made maybe was kind of interesting.
it was novel. It ran its course.
It felt like reading a novel. The length of time that it took was equivalent to reading a novel.
If I were directing this, I would have had it end as I sat down.
Couple trims. Oh, that would have been a good idea.
Yeah.
That would have been.
But you're more of like a not as good at what you do type of thing.
That's so true. A lot of people say that.
Well, it takes you 3 podcasts before you figure it out.
They say, you know what they say? They say Moshe Kasher, he's like, do you know Rick Glassman? He's like Rick Glassman, but like not as good. That's kind of the general
Well, that's
description.
not fair to say because I'm sure there's something you're at least as good at with me.
I have a question, a real question. You're good at stand-up and acting. What is the non-comedy thing that you think you're the best at?
I think the thing that I'm the best at is in the arts, at least.
I don't want it to be in the arts, but I'll hear your arts one, and then let's go to the next category.
Same reason why my comedy is so good, and that is my ability to be present and honest.
Sure, I could see that based on the way you perform. I would say, you take risks, and in those risks, there's cowardice, and I think we all agree on that. But
there's this odd dichotomy between people who look at risks in a similar way to danger, yet finding that honesty is a risk because they're so used to putting on a facade. And I don't think it's risky to be honest. I think it's a superpower. I think what's risky is having expectations that your honesty needs to be received a certain way. And when you are enlightened and you understand that you can't control the way people receive you, only the honesty you could have for yourself, then you start to realize, oh, I am who I am, and whether or not you receive me kindly, negatively, confused, if you're attracted to me, if you're unattracted, it matters not how you see me. What matters is I'm the best version of myself when I'm being honest to who I am, right? I could pretend to be somebody different, but at its best, it's still a character. You know what I mean?
And you stopped at the exact right time. And thank you for taking such good direction. Now, normally I'm not supposed to give directions to extras. And in fact, normally extras aren't even supposed to speak. But what you did, scintillating, awesome. And we want you in Angels and Demons 3, The Attack of the Demons.
Okay. Well, what's the role?
Just guy that talks, guy that's present in the moment.
Right.
And I think, but okay, no, Rick, really, what are you best at that isn't comedy related? It has nothing to do with comedy.
I'm not lying when I say I don't like to speak in hyperbole like that. What am I best
What
at?
do you feel?
What am I great at?
What do
What's
you feel-
something I'm great at?
Yeah, what's something you're good at?
Communication.
But that feels connected to comedy. I'm saying like, what?
Everything's connected to comedy if you're being
No.
honest. Absolutely. But I'm not even thinking about comedy. I'm talking about my relationships with people. I'm talking about being able to set boundaries and ask others theirs. I'm talking about being able to be in a room with somebody who's completely different than me, but yet feel safe and help offer at least some tools to allow them to feel the same.
All right, let me
We'll
ask-
be right back after a word from our sponsors. Listening to Audible on Alexa is the perfect hands-free companion for when you're cooking or cleaning or relaxing around this holiday season. You can ask Alexa to read your book, change narration speed, and even get a book recommendation from her. Families find listening on Alexa is a great connection time to listen to holiday classics. Audible also recently launched Alexa in the Audible app, giving you hands-free navigation and discovering the existing app. I just rewatched Notting Hill. Hugh Grant fan. I listened to a little bit of this on Audible. You could listen to A Christmas Carol narrated by Hugh Grant. You just say, Alexa, read A Christmas Carol. And then Alexa will be like, hello, this is Alexa. Would you enjoy listening to A Christmas Carol by Hugh Grant? Alexa customers could listen to A Christmas Carol narrated by Hugh Grant on Alexa for free the entire month of December. Sounds like a pretty good deal to me. Have an Alexa and just say, Alexa, play A Christmas Carol. Offer only available in the United States.
Ho, Santa Claus here. This episode is sponsored by Freeze Pipe.
Don't blow it into the microphone, please. You're going to light it up, and then when you're ready to clear it, you're going to pull that piece up and out. Do I need to put more weed in?
I think I need to figure out how to get it into my mouth. Gordon.
Do you want? That's a real beard, so you can't pull it down, correct? Oh, there we go.
I'll tell you this much. Get the Funyuns ready and the Fun Dip outside because I'm coming in hot with a couple of hands looking for snacks. Who said that?
Each freeze pipe piece uses a freezable chamber to create the smoothest smoking experience possible. Place it in the freezer 1 hour, and as smoke passes through, it's instantly cooled by over 300 degrees.
Take another hit for good measure.
You'll be taking bigger rips than ever before without any of the burning, pain, or coughing attacks you're used to dealing with. Putting ice in your bong is one thing, but chilling smoke through a frozen chamber will change how you light up forever. So for the smoothest smoking pipes, bubblers, bongs, and dab rigs, visit thefreezepipe.com and use code TISO for 10% off your order. That's thefreezepipe.com and code TISO for 10% off. Shop today. Shipping is always free. Your throat and lungs will thank you. Tell me what you think about that pipe, Santa.
Well, I wouldn't blow it into my reindeer's faces before they went on a journey to drop off presents to the world, but
You know what, Santa, we got to get back to Moshe, but I'm very excited that you came by. And people, you could check this out, our interview with Santa Claus next week.
It's a fun-filled, laugh-gas, hoo-ha, silly time, courtesy of Rick Glassman and Santa Claus. The first podcast I've ever done. You'll learn something and you'll feel better about who you are. Maybe?
So visit thefreezepipe.com and use code TISO for 10% off your order. Tell me the truth, though. How amazing is this pipe?
Oh, this pipe, I'm telling you, if this pipe was a wiener and I was gay, let's just leave it at that.
Okay. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Santa Claus. Santa. Now, is it true or is it not true that sometimes people need somebody to talk to?
It's mostly true.
The only thing that's not true is the sometimes.
Yes.
Because we always need somebody to talk to.
Everybody needs somebody.
Always. That's
Here
right.
at BetterHelp, we're looking to match you with a licensed professional.
Unfortunately, life doesn't come with a user's manual. So when it's not working for you, it is normal to feel stuck. You probably feel very, very anxious because Christmas is coming up and you're about to have to travel the world.
I gotta go. It's like, you ever fly from like Egypt to Tokyo?
Never.
That's a long flight. And I feel the weight and pressure of that flight every moment of my life because I'm constantly trying to make everyone's life better. Speaking of better, BetterHelp makes your life better.
Therapists are trained to help you figure out the cause of challenging emotions and learn productive coping skills.
BetterHelp matched me with a therapist who wasn't starstruck. Every person I talked to was like, can I ask you something? When you gave me that present in 7th grade, and I'll have to go, this isn't about you.
As the world's largest therapy service, BetterHelp has matched 3 million people with professionally licensed and vetted therapists available 100% online, plus it's affordable. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to match with a therapist, and if things aren't clicking, you can easily switch to a new therapist anytime. It couldn't be simpler. So there are no waiting rooms, Santa.
Is there any traffic?
None.
How about the endless searching for the right therapist?
Not with BetterHelp. You see, you could learn more and save 10% off your first month at BetterHelp.com/Tyso. That's better. H-E-L-P. H-E-L-P.com/Tyso.
And we're back. Thanks so much. Once again, we're joined by Rick Glassman, comedian, actor, monologist.
Not necessarily in that order.
Rick, before the break, we were discussing honesty and communication. I have another question for you.
Okay.
What is the topic that you know most about, do you think?
I know a lot about space.
You burp on the podcast into the mic a
We
lot?
edit them out.
No, you do?
Mm-hmm.
Why not just not do them?
Because I'm not being honest.
That was beautiful. Don't look at the camera. Look at me.
When we
Why am I trying to host your podcast?
You did it from the beginning. I like it. It makes me feel it makes me feel at ease. There's a different dynamic I have found that when I'm guests on others' podcasts and they're on mine, I think a big part of that is not necessarily that it's my podcast as much as they're in my home, and there's more need for control for me when I'm at home, both in my physical space and also in the product we're making.
I also think it's interesting, podcasting generally, that like when the headphones come on, my brain is clicked into a different thing where I'm like running toward the bit. Mm-hmm. I'm like, there's something about being on camera on TV too. It's like all of a sudden you're like, I must find a thing at all times.
I was that way when I was younger.
How old are you?
Today?
Yeah.
22.
How old are you in reality?
It doesn't matter.
You don't talk about that. There's a lot of things you don't talk about.
Is it? I'm 38. I'm not talking about my age.
Yeah,
I am
38.
38 today.
38. Is it your birthday today?
No, today I'm 38.
Wait, it's not your birthday.
No,
Okay. When's your birthday?
July.
I don't like to talk about that. July what?
6th.
You're lying. You did look up my Wikipedia because that's my birthday.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, how did you know that?
Easy, man. I know everything, but every now and then you have to make mistakes to allow other people to correct you, to allow them
Hold
to
on.
feel safe. It's one of the tools.
You knew that was my birthday?
I know everything there is to know about you.
Tell
I know
me
your name is
something-
Clarence and you went to a private school.
And my father is?
And your parents have a real good marriage.
No, that's not true.
That's,
What's the matter, dog? You in Paris? This guy's a gangster. His real name's Clarence. And Clarence lives at home with both parents. And Clarence's parents have a real good marriage.
Maybe that is true. How was that? Dramatically.
do you act
I do.
professionally?
What do you mean? Yes, I've acted in many things.
Is this something that you're working toward and working on, or is it something when opportunities come up? I heard you were friends with Chelsea Peretti.
Mm-hmm.
So because she's in the acting world with being married to a director, and she has acted, and maybe we'll want to act some more.
Great point.
Edit that out and make it a fart.
Everything you're saying is really dynamic and interesting right now.
But you know what's interesting
yeah.
is this is the first time I've seen you get triggered on this podcast.
How was I triggered?
Okay, relax.
I didn't get
Oh, that was really interesting and dynamic. Like that bothered you. What was it? Was it that I refurbished your Chelsea Peretti
You know
story,
what
or was
it
it
is?
about the acting?
I think it might be a little bit of both, to be honest.
Something happened.
Yeah, I'm definitely triggered. I'm definitely upset, and I'm close to leaving.
I can't tell if you're joking. Do you
I
want?
thought you're the honesty guy. I'm not close to leaving. I'm staying.
Okay. Is there something you want? We could edit that stuff out. Do you want me to bleep every time you name drop Chelsea Peretti?
I didn't. All I said was what I said it one time.
I connected with an old friend, Chelsea Peretti, but there I was in New York City with Chelsea Peretti.
So there I am, Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, I wouldn't say he's a friend, but we connected.
You know, there's a storytelling technique that I have learned and gifted some people on different podcasts before, which is, and you're doing it. I mean, you're doing it great. You didn't do all of the pieces to it, but when
I don't even know what the structure is.
here we go. When you're telling a story, you start off by saying, "So there I am," to kind of like let people know where you are, right? So there I am, and you say where you are,
Sure.
right? And give any descriptor. This is the opportunity that if this were a script and this and the where you are as a character, you'd put the parentheses and you would say, you know, glasses, good hair, vampire teeth, shit like this.
Love it.
So there I am. I'm at the blah 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 da 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 da. And you know me, so you introduce yourself first. You know me, a little tidbit about you. Better if it's about the story. And you know me, I'm not that starstruck by people, something like that.
But you also know me. I'm big in the bodybuilding world.
Also, every time you introduce a new person, you know them. So there goes Arnold Schwarzenegger. You know
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Right. Start from the beginning. Go ahead. So there I was.
So there I was at a cafe in Beverly Hills, the kind of place where Hollywood royalty dines. I walk up. Who's there?
First, establish you. Start
hold
over.
on,
Start from the beginning.
Okay. So there I am. Okay. So there I am at a cafe in Beverly Hills, the kind of place where Hollywood royalty dines. And you know me. I don't get fussed about famous people. I don't care one way or the other who I'm dining next to. But you also know me. Huge in the bodybuilding world. And I walk up. Who do I see? No one else but Arnold frickin' Schwarzenegger. That's right. And you know Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was the former governor of California. And you know what they called him. The Governator.
You're doing a lot of you knows. It's
I'm
a little tighter.
Okay, sorry.
Man, it's okay.
Yeah,
It's
you
okay.
go.
No,
You
it's
want
okay.
us to take over?
So there I am. So there I am.
So there we are.
Well, may I?
You please. I'm sorry.
So there I am at a diner in Beverly Hills. You know Beverly Hills. It's just filled with celebrities.
Oh, I'm supposed to be casual.
And you know me, I don't care about celebrities, so I'm doing my thing. I order a vodka tonic and a couple of sushis. In walks Arnold Schwarzenegger. You know Arnold. I mean, literally Mr. Universe multiple times.
Sure.
Kindergarten Cop. So I see Arnold. You know what I'm saying? It's all like parentheticals to the side.
So this is storytelling. What is the storytelling technique? Is this from like the Woody Allen character study?
This is stuff I figured out. I figured out how to get, hey. How to get people engaged, how to get them listening.
Well, everybody
Like that.
knows if you scream at someone, you'll engage with
That's
them.
an example, an easy example. That's why I named my podcast "Take Your Shoes Off." It's an easy neuroses to settle into. Some people might even think, "Oh, I'll get comfortable and I'll take my shoes off."
Have you ever had Brent Weinbach on this podcast?
No.
You guys could duel.
Yeah, well, so I wanted Brent on, and he wanted to come on, but for a while, for 2 years, I was doing him on my balcony because of COVID. He
Right.
didn't even want to do that.
Uh-huh.
And then he didn't want to come in and blah, blah, blah. And we've talked about it a few times. Open invitation to Brent. I would love to have him on, but
he could duel you for like
I try not to fight my friends.
things that he needs to feel comfortable,
Right.
if that makes sense.
Well, he's done it so much that it has been not possible to have him on the podcast.
That's exactly right. Brent requests that you don't pee standing up at his house. Does that sound desirable to you?
I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
that's very strange. But I have so many things myself that when other people have things that don't connect to me,
I feel
I'm
that.
still just like, whatever, man.
Yeah, I can feel that.
But what's interesting about that is that he would rather my butt touch his seat than some pee maybe touch.
On the floor.
Well, I'm not going to pee on the floor.
He gets on the floor.
I stand so
Do you?
I do well.
You got a wide stance?
I don't want to brag, but you know me, my stance is wide.
Right. So there I am. Cafe in Beverly Hills. I do my thing. I order a virgin margarita because you know me, sober guy. In walks Rick Glassman. You know Rick. Wide stance. Doesn't like to talk about it, but the widest stance in Hollywood. He goes straight to the toilet, and I say, I got to see this for myself. I follow him into the toilet. I open up the stall. There he is. Stance as wide as John Wayne after a 12-hour shoot on a Western.
Moshe, what are you doing? Close the door. I'm peeing here.
Hey, look at me. I'm telling the story.
What was confusing is that this was being an act out within the story, and then you, the narrator, were telling the story in the bathroom.
It's called being avant-garde, Rick.
I think it's called being on guard, meaning defensive. And you've been getting triggered since I even brought it up.
Touche.
Well, only on the seat when you pee. Tushy.
Tushy. Okay, yeah, I like it.
Thank you. So Moshe, I hear that you have you and your wife's podcast, The Endless Honeymooners, is
Endless
to the moon.
And back, baby.
Is you've been starting to kind of really pop. Like I've noticed a lot of people are talking about how amazing your podcast is.
Is that true? Get the fuck out of here.
Hey, you know me. I don't
You know me. I like to give a compliment that's really an insult.
I've been wanting to have you on for a while, man.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah.
Remember when we went to La Jolla?
Of course, it
That
was
was good
It
fun.
was July of 2010 or 11 is my guess.
That was fun. And wasn't it you, me, and Nick Youssef?
No, it was you, me, and Brent Weibach.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh man, good old days.
And you took us, or we all went to, I don't know who took whom and how we got in, but that was the first time I went to Comic-Con.
That's right. We went to Comic-Con.
I told you about this the other day at the Comedy
and Joe
Store.
Schwartz from APA got us in free. He was an
Shout out to
agent.
Joe Schwartz. Put your Instagram handle up here.
I don't even know if he's at APA anymore, but he got us in for free.
And that's where I was first introduced to JJ Redick, who created Game of Thrones.
George R.R. Martin?
Right.
JJ Redick?
RRJJ. Boy, are my arms tired.
I remember, oh, that's right. You brought this up to me that I went up to him.
Yeah,
and
because you were a big fan. This was before the show came out.
I was a huge fan. Yeah, that's right. He wasn't the celebrity he is today. And I told him I was writing a book, or that I had written a book.
I didn't hear what you said to him because you before you whispered it in his ear,
That's
as
right.
if you were typing in a password on your ATM. You went like this. I was right behind you, and you went to talk to him, and you went.
I wanted you away from me.
You went like this. So I went, oh.
In other words, go away.
I don't want you to hear what I'm going to say to JJ Redick.
It's not JJ Redick. The name is Vin Diesel. Riddick. The Chronicles of
You're
Riddick.
thinking of Riddick Bowe.
No, but I was thinking of it when I said that. Isn't the Chronicles of Riddick is a thing?
Let me tell you right now, I'm leaving it all in, but we're not. This is not going to be a fun bit we're doing.
We should leave it.
We should go back to the truth.
So there I am at Comic-Con.
No, do the truth. We do the truth. We do the truth.
So there I am at Comic-Con.
Great.
And you know me, huge George R.R. Martin fan. And
Were you a fan of his or of Game of Thrones at the time?
Game of Thrones. I had an ex-girlfriend that sent me the book.
She's no longer an ex?
She is still.
So you have an ex.
What did I say?
Had.
Okay. I had an ex. I both had and have an ex-girlfriend.
Right.
Who sent me the book when we were dating.
And you know my exes.
And you know my exes. They all love literacy. So she sends me this book. And you know me, huge reader. So what am I going to do? I read the book. I loved it.
Which was the book?
It's called Game of Thrones. It's
But it was the first book?
Song of Ice and
And
Fire,
Fire.
book 1. I believe it's called Game of Thrones.
Song of Ice and Fire. Are you watching House of Dragon?
I watched it. It's no longer.
It's not on anymore.
It's not on anymore.
Oh.
The season's over.
Interesting, because I just finished it 2 days ago.
Well, okay. Now you know me, big tech guy. What you're talking about is
Let's
something.
make sure. I'm sure you know this. No spoilers to anything.
Okay.
Or if you are, of course, you have to say.
Oh,
Well, you just
don't
do
even
that,
say
and
spoiler
then
alert?
then we put in a spoiler alert. That's the siren. Sounds of the siren.
So, spoiler alert. TV now is streaming, and so you can watch it at any time.
Right.
That's what's happening.
Oh
for
yeah,
you.
no, you don't need to spoil. We don't need to put anything up. People,
You
know
know
that.
me, big tech guy.
But I loved it. Loved.
House of Dragon.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good. I had some problems with it. I had a big problem with it actually, and honestly, it's a big problem with George R.R. Martin, not with the show itself. To me, now this will be a spoiler.
So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna the spoiler is coming up. For YouTube, we'll put a red bar for when it ends.
Sure.
But for audio, you might have to skip. How many seconds do they skip?
It's not a huge spoiler.
Well, still,
Okay.
how long do they skip?
What do you mean? How long do they?
If they want, I don't know. Just in case, I want to skip past this part.
It's not even really a spoiler, but sure.
Then is it just gonna
A
be the
minute.
beginning? A minute. Go.
I hated the idea.
How they all die.
I hated the idea of the gay. Remember the gay guy, and he's married to the main queen or whatever, and then they reveal that they're all
Jewish.
That they're all. I'm
Had a sneeze.
very. I have allergies. You know me, Jewish.
Don't even say what happens. I know for the people when that happens to him.
What? No, nothing happened. I'm not talking about the thing that happens to him. I'm talking about the fact that all of the kids weren't his because
Right.
they couldn't consummate the
Right.
marriage because he was gay. To me,
Which I think is fine, by the way.
to me,
I think it's. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
with what? Which part?
That he is gay.
Oh, that is okay. Because earlier when we weren't rolling, you said you had a huge problem with gay people, and that was what you said.
The way you deflect is so such a bummer.
Oh, you're bummed out right now.
It's a bummer because you're a smart guy, but you do it so surface. Like clearly, people know I didn't say that, but now it's like
But you
it's
did
weird that you might feel
that's
that
the
way
bit
about
you
yourself.
did. No, that's the bit you
There's
did to me
no
earlier
bit I
with
did.
women.
I'm Moshe and I hate women. I love women. I consider myself a feminist.
Come back after that.
I hate the Jews.
Or one. I hate one Jew. Now, Rick, I felt that plot line, and I don't blame the TV writers because I'm sure it's in the book. I felt that. Why would wait? I'm kissing. Oh, I guess like DB Benahoff's ass or something. Yeah, it's just such a old straight guy's view of what gay sexuality
Meaning
is.
that a gay person, if it was meant for the bloodline and it was that important, you could just come.
Your head literally is going to roll if you don't procreate.
Yeah, you just masturbate and stick it in.
Yeah, you look at some like centurion that you have like
No,
bent
but
over.
they did say that there was a line. Maybe this was
I
a studio
remember the
note.
line.
Yeah, but so they tried.
They tried,
Maybe
but
he
I
was
just-
infertile.
No, he like it's such an old straight guy's view of gay sexuality. Like he looks at a vagina, and is like, "Ew, it's a vagina."
No, but they did it. But they did it, and she was
said
unable.
he said, "I tried."
Yeah.
but no, he
It
could
takes
jerk
more than
off in the
once.
other room. All he could jerk off to the guy to the.
I heard he jerked off in the other room and he stuck it in and it still didn't work.
and it went blump. What if you just jerk off into your own hand?
No.
And then you just swipe it in.
You don't know.
Pat it in.
Yeah, that's such a bisexual point of view on how coming works.
No, let me tell you, a lot of women literally got pregnant. A lot of gay women who wanted to have a sperm donor but didn't want to go through the official channels, they would just have the guy jerk off into a turkey baster and then they just baste it.
Yeah, you can't do it into your hand though, because once it touches the air,
Bacteria.
I don't really know how. It
You
works.
asked me to wash my hands before this podcast. I'm going to take your word for it that you know about hand bacteria more than me. And we're back.
So the problem is that he has an old straight version of.
To me,
Does that really take you out?
it took me out of it because it's such an unbelievably major plot point.
Even with them saying we tried it.
Listen, I enjoyed the show, so it didn't take me out of it. I was able to just roll with it, but I just felt bothered by the fact that
Pun intended. Roll with it. Spoiler alert.
no.
Bleep that.
What do you mean?
Bleep what I'm about to say again.
Who? No.
A lot of people's. You get it. Poetic license. Keep this all bleep.
You know he didn't.
Moshe, don't say that.
That's a spoiler. Take that out. But you know he take this out.
Okay.
You know that, right?
this is confusing the point. People might. I really don't like spoilers.
All right, let's move on.
Yeah.
Take it all out. Wait, that really is all
I
happening.
could leave it in, but bleep out the stuff that I said.
What about me?
About what part? When you said the N word, we bleeped it.
I did. You know, the way you deflect is so, I would say, beyond a bummer. It's toxic.
Why do you find the need to take on somebody else's voice instead of
don't
finding
have-
your own?
I don't have one.
Is that why you got married?
There's,
Hey, I got 2 words for you.
yeah.
Hello.
I got 2 words for
Honey.
you.
Go ahead.
Endless Honeymoon. It's a podcast I do with Natasha.
I think it's spectacular.
Oh,
I love
thank
how
you.
you guys do it at your house.
I love how you do yours at yours.
Mm-hmm.
We got that from you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm flattered.
Does it seem like our house? Like not a studio?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, ouch.
Why? That's a great thing.
No, I agree.
Isn't that what you want? Like, you never watch a TV show, and does this seem like they're really in a bar, or could you tell it's a studio? It seems like it's in a bar. Oh, we spend all this money on a studio.
Oh, speaking of La Jolla.
Right.
I'm going to La Jolla. Can I say that?
Yeah, plug your dates. Well, also,
Can you put that at the beginning?
market.
Yeah, I'll be in La Jolla December 9th through the 11th. Coming up very soon.
You know what? I think this comes out right at the week after that.
Is that true?
I could tell you the date this comes out.
Is this a bit?
No. I think the date this will come out is going to be the weekend you get back. I think this comes out audio on the 12th, YouTube on the 13th.
Well, here's what I really want to tell your listeners. New Year's Eve in Oakland, California at the Grand Lake Theater. We're doing our annual New Year's show. So everybody should come. Brent Weinbach, he who likes you to pee standing up, he'll be there. Andrew
Pee
Michon.
sitting down.
That's right. I lost track of my own
And also
stories.
it's January 14th.
It comes out January 14th.
No,
whatever
you.
date-
You messed up him and your dates.
No, I like the idea that whatever date I plug, you go, oh, I'm so sorry. Actually, we just pushed it. We pushed it another few weeks.
Before this comes out, I'll text you and you'll send me your
I love that.
and we'll put it up on the YouTube screen.
Go to this. It'll be really fun.
Well,
And-
yeah, we have a lower. Thank you, John Michael. We put a lower third with your website, of course, but also right next to you, we have the dates of where you'll be in December and January.
I was really curious, though, Rick. Earlier, I asked you a question. You kind of didn't answer it.
Let's go back.
Forget your best talent.
How could I?
What do you think you know the most about? What's a topic you know the most about?
I know a lot about, as I did answer this earlier. I know a
I
lot
don't
about
think you did. You
the
deflected
cosmos and space. I
You
did
didn't say
I said
that.
space.
You did not.
I know a lot about space. You burp on the podcast into the microphone. We edit them out.
That was real.
What do you know about space?
Just some stuff about space. I understand quantum physics and mechanics.
Is that real? Are you being serious?
Yes.
Have you ever heard of the Boltzmann brain theory?
Mm-mm.
This is really a mind boggler. The Boltzmann brain theory basically says that the cosmological forces that are required to create a universe such as the one that we live in reality,
Such as?
right? You know me, big quantum physics guy. There I am, birth of the universe. But the
Nervous.
not nervous, trying to figure out, because this is not my sweet spot. This is just me regurgitating information that this actual physicist, Sean Carroll, told me.
I have a take on, by the way, which we could get to later,
Yeah.
on how much most people, all they are doing is regurgitating information without even recognizing it.
Sure.
But we could get into that.
Okay. So basically,
Right
in
now.
order to create you cut me off. In order to create the universe, it takes so many exact, like perfect equations of, the ozone layer and the Big Bang being this temperature, whatever it is, to create the universe as we know it is so unbelievably difficult and unlikely in the kind of cosmological equation that it is more likely and less difficult to create a simulation where the universe is fake than it is to create the real universe. And that basically, this is what I thought was interesting. Not only would it be easier to create the simulation than to create the actual universe on a kind of quantum physics level, but that also quantum physicists who know that, they go, and yet that's not true.
Well, so here's why. This has been debated for millennia.
Millennia?
With millennia, Trump.
With
Melania
millennials.
Trump, excuse me.
With millennial, young
with
people.
millennials, with young people. So if this were the case, and that would mean there are so many different whether you'll call them universes or dimensions or simulations, whatever it might be, there would have to be so many, because if statistically it's possible, it would continue. And what that would mean is there was an original one at first, right? Whatever the first before simulation, something must have created the simulation, whether you call it a higher power, a smarter being, a god, whatever it may be.
You believe in God?
I would like to handle one subject at a time.
Great. I like to throw incredibly complicated and complex subjects at a person as they're trying to explain quantum physics.
Are you being sarcastic? Because you did it, but you also seem to be self-aware. And that actually is quite analogous to what I'm saying with a simulation.
Go ahead.
How all of these things exist together. And if that happens, you have your first, your egg, we'll call it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then some civilization that is authentic and real, as real as what we're speaking of not being in a simulation is concerned, to where their technology grows so much that they themselves are able to create a simulation where they can mimic and model all of these atoms to be together that aren't existing, digital or however it may be.
Right.
So it creates a simulation. Then within that simulation, that community, that species, that life force, whatever you want to call it, grows into something that could also then create a simulation. And this then continues and continues and continues, giving you these infinite amount of simulations. What that means is there is one non-simulation, which we could call, just if you don't mind, real.
Creator?
The original. Please, let's call it original, just to avoid, because who knows who created this.
But are you suggesting that the original, the real, is the creator also?
It must be, because something must have created the simulation.
Right, but what created the real one?
That, again, as your question of God, let's handle one thing at a time. Right now we're speaking of civilization, not the origins of life. So this simulation then makes a new simulation,
Boy, I'm not even going with you on this. Hold on. Let me just...
So the argument is that there are an infinite amount of simulations.
It's not that I don't understand what you're saying. It's I'm rejecting the premise. Why does a simulation have to have been created by multiple versions of the simulation?
Well, that was given even more of a statistical approach of saying how you have better odds that it's a simulation, because that is the argument that there are all these different simulations. Otherwise,
why? Hold on, I'm sorry.
Sure.
Why is that an argument that other simulations had to precede the simulation you're in?
The argument is that if anything that is possible will happen.
Yeah,
right?
I know that
and
argument.
in an infinite amount of time, or in a large amount of time. If this thing is possible, then it will continue. The other version of that, which would make it less statistically possible, is, there's only one simulation, which would then give us a 50-50 chance. Mm-hmm. Well, statistically, there's a better chance that there is a simulation than not a simulation. Well, it's 50-50.
I think that's the
argument
of the Boltzmann brain theory. And by the way,
we are out of time.
Ouch. This has been...
Just on the subject.
Amateur quantum physics. No, by the way, the Boltzmann brain theory, I think, physicists out there, correct me if I'm wrong. The Boltzmann brain theory is saying that it's not 50-50. It's actually 51-49 or 60-40. It's more likely. It's easier to have created a simulation than to have created a real universe. I don't know how this extra thing of the only way a simulation could exist is if previous iterations of the simulation existed first and recreated.
Have you seen the end of Men in Black, the original?
Yeah, and every quantum physics conversation ends here.
So as you look inside
the
cat's orb around its neck, you see that is actually a universe within universes within universes within universes in all these dimensions. That is the argument, that are there multiple universes or is it multiple simulations?
Right.
There's an infinite amount of what? What is there an infinite amount of? Other universes? If that's the case, what's to say one is a simulation, one isn't? What's to say that they exist in different planes, et cetera, et cetera?
No, I'm with you. But I feel like you're arguing no, you're not arguing, but you're presenting two things at once. One is multiverse kind of theory, right, where there are many Spider-Mans in many different realities, some played by Tobey Maguire, some played by Andrew Garfield.
Spoiler alert.
Oh, wait. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the other is whether or not reality is real.
Well, I think that whether or not reality is real is another philosophical argument, because whether it's a simulation or not, if we feel it is through our eyes what is real. So if I'm a digital being, if I'm artificial intelligence, if I'm the creator, it's real to me, so it's real.
I do think, by the way, that it's real. Yeah. I don't think this is a simulation.
Great.
I'm not a believer in that. I don't believe in almost any conspiracies.
Do you believe in mitochondria?
Not that that's a conspiracy. What's mitochondria?
Never mind.
What is it?
It doesn't matter. I don't want to get into this with
All
you
right.
right now.
Wait, is that the thing that makes the Force go? No, those are midichlorians.
Oh, the Force is in the May 4th.
The May 4th.
Star Wars.
Right. But I'm talking about the
you're
movies.
talking about
the
midichlorians.
movies that were created to honor the holiday May 4th.
Right.
We used to, our grandparents used to celebrate May 4th, and they'd say, "May the 4th be with you." And then George Lucas, famous hack, stole that and created a movie franchise around it.
Again, I don't like to speak on other people, but I will say that energy used to be thought of as, from like people in our day, like people that talk about energy, they think of it as like, oh, hippy dippy, spirituality, not real, not finite, not tangible for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think with all of this conversation of the universe and energy, and everything is literally energy. I mean, from the photon being birthed at the center of a star to taking millions of years to exit the sun's surface to right away fill up the life force on this planet with whether it's food or it's so mind-boggling to me how tangible energy really is. Yet we pretend that the only thing that's reality are the things that we could see and touch.
So, do you think that that creation being so far-fetched, that creation
what creation?
Well, you were just saying, like all of the factors that go into creating a life-sustaining environment. And by the way, it's like Earth is one of an infinite amount of planets.
Technically not an infinite, but I understand.
But close enough to infinity that that's about as much as we could understand. Right?
Untrue. 10 to the 10th power of planets, but a lot of planets.
Okay. You understand 10 to the 10th power?
I can't, but I understand that that's far, far, far away from infinity.
But isn't it ever expanding? Is this a fun conversation?
I don't think so. But yes, ever expanding. But everything is just being regurgitated and regenerated. All of the energy that we are giving out, that we are waiting to happen, it all was birthed in a star before us, and in the creation before that. And though it's expanding, it all already exists. You know, I have a theory in comedy about how there are we aren't writing any jokes. We aren't coming up with things. Everything already exists. What we're able to do is see the thing that exists.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't write this. I just was able to recognize it, and I'm going to take it and borrow it for a moment. But just because I say it doesn't mean somebody else isn't going to say it. It doesn't mean it hasn't already been said.
Do you feel dubious about accusations of joke thievery?
Could you explain to me the word dubious? Like hatred, dislike?
You doubt that they are legitimate.
Oh, they're not mutually exclusive.
No, I know.
Oh, I do think people steal.
I do too, but I think that 90% of accusations of joke thievery are bullshit.
Yeah, I can't tell you a number to it, but I do think that there's much more parallel thought, which we'll call reality, than joke theft, which we will call, what's it called? Simulation.
I once wrote a joke.
Let me hear it.
I don't even know if I could remember it. It was about people having children,
right.
And they would say, "Do you want to see a picture of my baby?" And I would say, "No, I don't want to see a picture of your baby. I already know what it looks like. It looks like a fucking baby."
Yeah, Tom Cruise used to do that.
And then they would. I have a great story about Tom Cruise. I'll get back to that. I don't like to deal with two huge concepts at the same time. But
I was just thinking about when I said that before, and it was funny.
No, it was great. But this isn't a competition. This is a conversation. And then
good merch.
And then it would say,
it's actually great merch.
You can have it. Yeah. And then it would say, what was the rest of the joke? And then people will always say about your baby, "Can you believe it? My baby, spit up today. She said the word something." I don't remember how the joke goes. This is literally 15 years ago that I wrote this joke. "Can you believe it?" And I go, "Yeah, if I can believe it, because it's some baby ass shit to say." Now, if you want to tell me a cool story about how your baby bit the dog's ear off and said, "Chupa mi something," I don't remember, something in Spanish. Your baby bit the dog's ear off and said, "Suck my," it's "chupa mi pollo, puta." Your baby bit the dog's ear off and said, "Suck my chicken, bitch," in Spanish. Now I want to hear this story. Do you have a picture? I want to see this cool baby. Some version of that, right?
I'm sure you were doing it different then.
It was 15 years ago. Right. I was performing it in a way that I remembered the bit.
We have a clip.
People be like, "You want to see a picture of my baby?" And I'm like, "No! I know what it looks like. It looks like a fucking baby." Another thing people love to say. My baby just did this thing. Can you believe it? Yeah, I can believe it. The baby drank some milk. Can you believe it? Yeah, I believe it, because that's some baby-ass shit to say. Now, you want to tell me a cool story about how your dog bit your baby. Hold on.
The first time I saw Tig Notaro, she came to the Punchline.
Name drop.
And she did this bit that was so eerily, and I'm talking almost word for word, beat for beat, similar to that joke that I did. And I was like a little more than an open micer at the time. You know, like I maybe was hosting at the Punchline. And I saw this bit, and it was so unbelievably similar. The punchline was different. It wasn't chupa mi pollo, but it was something about can you believe it? And then the baby does something unbelievable. Yes, I can believe it because it's a baby, but then it does something unbelievable. Now I can't believe it. The whole thing was so insanely similar that it made me think almost all accusations of joke thievery are bullshit. If this woman, who I've never seen before, can write who's a better comedian than me, certainly at the time, I would say, can write a joke that's so beat for beat similar to me.
What would you say if I were to tell you that she told me the same story and she said that she saw you do it?
And she said that I stole it.
No, that she stole it.
That she stole it from... Is this a real question?
No.
Okay. So, that's my kind of feeling, is like almost all joke thievery.
What you're saying is, since this version of something that would otherwise seem so clearly theft isn't, then all the other versions that follow at least might not be.
Yes. Almost all versions that follow merit a second look.
Yeah, well, I would argue that with any accusation.
That's interesting. Keep talking. You were saying that you don't believe the Me Too movement.
What I was saying is that in 23andMe, too,
yeah,
they don't just take your blood and say, this is what you did. They also take the other person's blood. Do you know what I mean?
No.
So to know that if you're a relative of somebody, it can't tell you who you're a relative of unless you have both of those sides. Now, a lot of people say there's two sides to every story. And I say, I guess if you live in a two-dimensional world, I say there are many sides to any story. And one of the sides to your story that you're leaving out is the fact that you might have had an anomaly happen. Or
you think like that was maybe a glitch in the Matrix?
I don't think it was a glitch. There were no cats. What I think is you experienced something.
The Tig thing we're talking about. Yeah.
You experienced something that is literally a sample size of one.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then saying, well, then nobody else must have gotten molested.
No, that's not what I'm saying. And that's I am saying I don't believe in that anyone has ever been molested. That is what I'm saying.
You've been saying it all night.
That's what I was saying to you on the ride over as I was texting you. I was saying, can we please get to that at some point?
But the truth is,
I'm not saying. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
I think you understand. I was just going to highlight the point,
and
but
you're
I
right.
think you get it.
I'm not saying Tig wrote this joke that was so similar to me, therefore most joke theft accusations are fake. I'm saying if two people who don't know each other can write such similar bits, that almost all similar bits that
this
you
is
see
what we're
in the
saying.
wild...
If something could happen, then it will.
Could be parallel thoughts.
But if something could happen, then it will, is the theory. Thus, if a simulation could be created, then it will. And if it can once, it will be continuously created. And that's the point. Not everything is a simulation, but if it can happen, it will happen. And with an infinite amount of time, everything happens, right? So that's what that theory is.
We're back to quantum physics.
I'm just relating that everything, man, okay, is cyclical if you look at it from I'm starting here and it comes back. I would argue everything's happening. It's just not happening at the same time. And now we're getting into the dimension of time. And that's where I think we as humans don't truly appreciate that the present doesn't mean now. It's just the only part we could see.
Can I tell you another thing that blew my mind?
Is this the Tom Cruise thing?
Oh, I could tell you that. It's a great story. But this
instead, you can tell me something that's not as
interesting. Actually, much more interesting, but less of an anecdote. Which is that, you know, the whole idea, we've been kind of dancing toward it, what preceded the creation of the universe, what came before, is a bad question, because there is no before, because time started when the universe started.
I don't think that is something that I could concede to.
Well, I'm not asking you to concede to it. I'm merely asking you to concede to the fact that quantum physics postulates that, right? The time began when the universe was created.
They postulate.
And and that the universe being now this is the part that I'm not
what is
even at the-
postulated is our time, by the way.
right.
time itself.
I'm not even getting to the part that blows my mind yet, and I don't necessarily believe any of this because I don't really understand any of this.
Can I guess? Is it something about
Yeah.
how in Mission Impossible he literally jumped out of the back of the jet once a
Tom
night?
Cruise does his own stunts,
Right.
all of the time, every time.
Mm-hmm.
So that the universe is created, and then at the beginning of the universe, you could have held the universe in the palm of your hand. You couldn't have held it up because it was so heavy. It had so much mass that it would have. I don't know what would have happened, but it was that small. And then it created and expanded. Now it's this ever expanding universe.
Not ever expanding, continuously expanding. It will stop.
Okay, that's right. I actually did know that, but that it's space. That is what space is.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look up, up there is the from your eyes up is the beginning of the universe from your perspective outward, right? And time started when the universe started, which means to me that the sky, space, and time, the thing that makes you grow old and your grandma die,
Doesn't make us grow old. It's the only way of calculating it.
well, we regardless, time, the thing that is working on our bodies and making them get old, and the thing that made your grandma die, and the thing that makes, everything is the same force and the same thing as the sky. And that fucked me up.
Is the same thing?
Time and space-time. It's the same.
Those are two separate things that go together.
Well, time began as space began, and
Yes.
space and time are interrelated, and they are close enough to basically be the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
That blows my mind. That the actual physical stuff of out there-ness is the same thing that time is. Tom Cruise was once invited to a Super Bowl party, and I heard,
I'm sure it's happened numerous times.
and he
but go on.
shows up with a brand new football, like in the box, as if to say, like, "Hey, look, football. We're doing football."
Uh-huh.
And they're like, "Oh, thanks, Tom." And then they're all talking about their wives, and he says, my favorite part about being married is having sex with my wife. And everybody kind of shuddered, like as if there was an alien among them, like the end of Men in Black.
That's kind of the tone of what you're thinking is funny of that makes me think of in 40-Year-Old Virgin when he talks about how boobs feel like bags of sand.
Bags of sand. But this really, apparently, kind of, maybe, really happened.
Right. And also maybe so did the Big Bang. But we don't postulate what other people do. You know why?
Why is that?
Because it makes an asshole out of you and me.
That's a classic saying.
Mm-hmm.
If you postulate
What others are saying.
what others are saying, it makes an asshole
Yes.
out of you and me.
Right.
Do you believe in God?
I'm stalling even though I have an answer because
Nervous.
No, because it's not. The question doesn't make sense to me because believe in, as in its existence, or should I say her existence, or are you saying that a possibility of God, and if so, does God mean a person high up in the clouds with a beard? Or does it mean
Yeah, do you believe in a person?
something that creates an energy force?
Yeah, do you believe in a person up in the sky with a beard?
I don't think I believe in a person up in the sky with a beard.
No beard. Person, but clean shaven?
I don't think that it's fair to assume that somebody on Earth figured out what this thing is.
But almost nobody believes in a guy in the sky with a beard. I mean, that's not what
Right,
I don't think that's what anyone's really asking.
I do
when
think
they ask
sometimes
that question.
of people who you think of God, it's not as concentrated as a singular creator as far as a spirituality and
Sure.
an energy force.
Do you have a spiritual life? Let me ask you that.
I'm not against it. I don't know if I do.
No.
As I was talking to you about before and wasn't joking, I do believe in energy, both actual physical, shouldn't say physical, I guess, but like, photons have no mass, but like, an observable energy versus something that like what creates that and what dimensions there are outside of our own 3 dimensions.
Well, quantum physics is, and again, I don't understand it very well.
I can explain it to you. Go ahead.
But quantum physics is the kind of belief drug for the chronically agnostic. It's or even the bordering on atheistic. Like, if you want to believe that there are things that are mysterious underneath the observable reality in which we live.
Well, there are without
Well, that's for sure. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, materialists don't believe that. They believe that what we see is what we get, right? Even if we can't see it, it's still just like there is no meaning. There is no energy is just a word that we would ascribe to something that we don't understand to attempt to like even your term,
Trumpers.
Even your term of energy being both hippie and describing scientific forces is those are two different words. They're two different meanings. They don't actually. One thing is about like vibes and woo woo, and one thing is about forces in the universe.
I think vibes and woo woo is like is still their what they have experienced or heard of is a version of the other energy, but they don't quite yet understand it, and that is the spirituality of filling in the blanks.
So that's something that you've decided that they're interconnected, and which I'm not even pushing back on you on. All I'm saying is that a real materialist, a real true atheist would say,
well, let's get one on. Tell me what they would say, because I've never heard this.
You've never heard a person say
if I can't see it, it doesn't exist?
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. That there's nothing in the universe that is mysterious or beyond comprehension. It's just something that we don't yet comprehend, right? That it's just that materialism is it's observable reality, and that's it. There's no underlying mystery to anything. There's just stuff we don't know yet.
Well, that's different than saying we don't yet understand it, because it's admitting that there maybe later we can.
Yeah, I don't think any true atheist or materialist thinks that they understand everything. They just don't think that once we uncover those systems of understanding, that what we will get to is some kind of...
Are you comfortable with us having a laugh track underneath all of this? A couple of guys that heard a couple of things talking about it for 45 minutes.
All right, you want to change the subject?
Not necessarily. You know, the truth is I do sometimes, and I am also okay with this, but I'm going to acknowledge something I've recognized in myself, that I become aware, when I become aware of people listening to us, which I can honestly say is deep in my subconscious a lot of the time.
Sure.
But when I become aware of it, I have a difficult time knowing the difference between just not being fully present, which happens as a human, and we're like now seeing things, and does that mean, oh, that's my intuition saying maybe we move past?
Sure.
Or is it just something that happens?
Well, you want me to be real with you? Your show, you as a person, as a comic, as a performer, are so deep in bits and layers that I don't always know where you want to go. So I'm just trying with you right now to kind of do the dance that I feel like you're leading.
Huh. It's funny because you literally started hosting my podcast.
That is a fair point.
And telling me I'm leading.
Maybe that was a defense mechanism. Maybe that was a defense mechanism because I didn't exactly know what I was sitting down into.
Why didn't you ask?
What am I sitting down into? This is a good time to ask.
I'm just going to answer you as literally and simply as possible, an episode of my podcast.
Well, right, but that doesn't give me the information that I so desire. Like when I think of your podcast.
Have you watched my podcast?
I've watched clips of it.
Okay. Which usually when I post clips, they are the bits.
Yeah, I assume that it's a more or less like absurdist bit on bit on bit on bit on bit kind of podcast. So
no, I've cried numerous times. People have.
What have you cried about?
Somebody didn't understand my bit and I got angry.
It was a bit.
No, there's a lot of. I'm very proud of that. This podcast exists some fantastic bits and lots of vulnerability. I have been embarrassed to post episodes that I've decided to post because it's just it's easier to police that way. Just everything is what it's supposed to be.
You've never pulled an episode?
There's been a few episodes near the beginning that I never posted.
They just weren't good enough.
I felt that it was either not that interesting, or me or the guest maybe wasn't something that they would have liked. But that was more within the first probably 30 episodes where I was still trying to figure it out. I also I don't remember. I don't think so though.
I'm willing to get vulnerable.
It's not something I even necessarily seek. What are the things that keeps me going making this podcast is, on average, once a week, I'm having a long form conversation with somebody that I probably never have, even if I've known them for a long time.
Well, I find that really beautiful about podcasting, period, is that it's very difficult.
Podcasting, comma, is that.
Podcasting, comma, period.
What seems like I feel really interesting about podcasting, comma, is that
But yeah.
you don't start a anyway.
Which is that it's very difficult in life in general to take time to do anything deliberate and long. And podcasting, like for me personally, the way that I experience it, although my show with Natasha is a little different because it's an advice podcast and it's segmented. But you know, when I did the Champs with Neil Brennan and actually my other podcast, Hound Tall, which is kind of defunct, what was cool about it was you have these kind of rare opportunities to go deep and long with somebody. And that's really rare. You know, when you're out in the world in the wild and you want to have a good intensive conversation with somebody, you have to wait for magic to occur.
It's why I don't believe in the how you doing.
What do you like to say instead?
Hi. And then if we're sitting down together, that's a fair, easy starting off question. I mean, how many podcasts when you have a guest on, and I could tell you for me, not many, is the first question, how you doing?
Sure.
So you do it because we were taught to. Because if you don't do it, now I don't know what to say. And that just feels not only disingenuous, it feels lying and manipulative.
I remember when my dad died, I made this decision. I was 20, and I made this. Told you I was willing to get vulnerable. I made this decision to not answer someone falsely when they asked me how I was doing, because I was in such a state of pain that I felt like one of the weird outcroppings of my dad dying was that I lost my taste for small talk, at least temporarily. And I was like, I don't want to do small talk anymore. So when people would ask me, I'm sure I made a lot of people uncomfortable. When people would ask me how I was doing after my dad died, I would tell them in real terms, I'm not doing well. I'm in grief. I'm suffering. And it made for some very bizarre and interesting conversations because people really are not comfortable. They don't want to know.
Get rid of the word bizarre.
Okay.
It made for some interesting conversations.
And they were also bizarre.
But because you said it made him uncomfortable. I think that, and I've talked about this in a different version on this podcast at some point, that I think the word uncomfortable has some really bad PR.
You like uncomfortable.
It's not that I like it or dislike it. It's that it exists and we pretend that it's bad. We pretend that it's bad because whenever we experience it, we try and shorten it, or we don't even get to experience it because we try and often successfully avoid it. So we just don't have a lot of experience with being uncomfortable. Something that stand-up has helped me as a person so much through taking chances on things that weren't very efficient as far as building an act is concerned. I got very comfortable with uncomfortability. And you realize, I guess a lot of people could associate this in a community.
Yeah, you're the king of uncomfortable silences. That's what everybody says. Everybody says that behind your back. They say Rick Glassman, comedy's king of uncomfortable silences.
I understand at least if that's a joke, because I know everybody's saying that behind my back, why you even make that joke. That was a big part of me starting off, was a lot of making people uncomfortable.
I always thought, I remember you doing very well in La Jolla, which is the main time I've really watched your stand-up.
In 2011. So
it's been a while. When's the last time you watched my stand-up? Probably a similar.
Yeah, maybe then.
Isn't that funny that we're these peers and buddies?
I already understand that.
Each other?
No, I already understand that. That's kind of like when people tell me, even when they watch my podcast, peers and friends, I'm in order flattered and surprised.
Yeah.
There's just so much.
There's so much.
You know?
That's why it's so difficult to have a long conversation, because there's just so much. I started reading a book the other day, not because I wanted to read it, but because I wanted to read a book. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I was like,
it's like eating because there's food there.
I have to get back to the time when I haven't read a book in a fucking decade, but I've been looking at memes all year. I'm 42 and a dad. I need to get a book in my life.
I understand.
Yeah.
I don't want to leave the topic of uncomfortable though.
Well, we created an uncomfortable silence on this podcast during the conversation about uncomfortable
Why was it
silences.
uncomfortable?
Because it was long.
Why? What's uncomfortable about it?
Long silences? They're kind of one of the classic hallmarks of uncomfortable.
That's old school thinking, man.
Okay.
Either we redefine uncomfortable or we stop getting afraid of it. Because there's a lot of space between here and the sun. Is that uncomfortable or is that necessary for the energy to get here in 8 minutes?
Okay.
What I'm saying is when things are uncomfortable, it's only because it doesn't meet our expectations. So is the silence or the action or inaction what's uncomfortable? Or is it that we don't understand what things are really supposed to be?
And what are they supposed to be,
It
according
doesn't-
to you?
There shouldn't be an expectation of it.
But then why the judgment on uncomfortableness?
I want to argue the word judgment and no, fine, judgment. It's judgment on people's feeling toward it and not what it is itself. Uncomfortable is when my stomach hurts. Uncomfortable to me is when, a silence could be uncomfortable is if you say, my dad died, and then you say, I told you I was going to get vulnerable, and I were to interrupt and say, well, you couldn't have been vulnerable without making a joke still. And then you're like, all right. And then I felt like the energy actually, we kind of you have to acknowledge it. That's when you acknowledge it. When something happens and you acknowledge it, it's because it's uncomfortable. But there are things that aren't really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Going out on a first date, here's an example of where I think it's uncomfortable and maybe it's just a perception. Going out on a date is uncomfortable because I have to wear pants. And I'm supposed to ask the question. I talk about this in my set, so I feel like I always need to acknowledge that so it doesn't seem like I'm doing a bit.
I get that.
But like there are things you're supposed to do. How many brothers? You have brothers and sisters?
I do.
Oh, are you an oldest or young?
I'm a youngest.
Youngest, yeah, same. Like who gives a fuck? You're just supposed to you're supposed to ask these things because if you don't ask these things, and asking them is where I feel uncomfortable because I feel manipulative. I'm asking because I'm trying to meet what I think your expectations are. And if I really wanted to know what your expectations are, and I asked you directly, you would get uncomfortable. People get uncomfortable.
Like what? Do that.
Well, I do now.
But let me hear what you mean, because right now what you're describing to me, you're describing as a kind of set of rituals that are like kind of surface and expected of you. But to me, it's you're getting to know a person, and that's why you ask those questions to figure out who the person is, to see if you can get beyond the surface and get deeper. I think that's what first dates are. The reason you go through the kind of interview questions is you're trying to get to know a person, and I
don't do that on this podcast.
Right, but that's a little bit different because you've got a context. You've got a context of a podcast where you're gonna, have a long form conversation with somebody.
That's what a date is, just without cameras.
I don't agree. I think that there's a context in podcasting that is different than a context with talking with a complete stranger on a date where it might lead to romance. But go ahead. What does it look like? What do you do on a date? I'm curious.
Well, what I do on dates is and this is, at least most of the time for the last 8 years, is I'll FaceTime with them for a while before even meeting them.
Interesting.
I'll FaceTime with them.
So you find them on an app?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you say, what I want to do.
Well, the thing is, if I meet somebody in real life, then where do you meet people? At work or something?
I don't know. You're a comedian. You may meet them when you're getting off stage. You might meet them at a bar. I don't know.
Yeah, but even that, then sure. If I meet him at a getting off stage or somewhere that isn't anywhere, then there is a organic conversation as opposed to, hey, do you want to go meet for whatever? And you sit down and you go like, so, tell me about where you're from and that kind of stuff. I haven't had that in a very, very long time. I'll FaceTime many times.
Do you do the interview questions during the FaceTimes, or what are you doing?
No. What I'm doing, and there's a selfishness to this, but I'm assuming and wanting the other person to be doing it for themselves. I am feeling out, am I going to be able to be playful with this person? Do I feel comfortable with this person? Does this person seem honest? I'm really just checking vibe.
Yeah, but that's kind of what the interview questions are too. They're not just to get the information. They're to get, is there energy here? It's back to energy.
Yeah, but when you're on a date, you go to what's a great date spot? A coffee shop.
Sure.
And within 5 minutes, there isn't that vibe, which
Yeah.
doesn't mean there can't be one later, but
Usually
there's not.
Yeah. Usually it doesn't come later.
If I were to say, you said usually it doesn't or does?
I would say usually, and I think you're right, not always, but usually, because some people are really uncomfortable
Right.
on first dates. But usually, if you're not feeling the energy within the first couple of minutes, there isn't going to be energy.
Yeah, at least for us then, I trust my intuition and it has
Sure.
been validated that way.
What do you do in that case?
Well,
You don't have to bother with that because you're on FaceTime.
right. So, but when you're not in FaceTime, I then have to, rightfully so, consider their feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of being like, all right, goodbye. And it's not that we're at our own home. It's who cares?
Of course, yeah.
You know?
You have to let the date play out so as to not...
And that's where I get uncomfortable.
In order to preserve the illusion that
Yes.
you're still there, but mentally you already know you're out.
Yes.
So on the it's interesting. Isn't that similar to what's happening on the FaceTime? It's just that the artifice of the interface.
No,
allows you-
because if you and I are on a phone call,
yeah,
I gotta go. But if you're here, I know that you've committed the time.
play it out.
Yeah, you play it out.
When I was back to when my dad died.
Real
Oh,
quick,
sorry.
real quick. The point I'm making is once we get to the point to where it's like I'm not in, and I'm not allowed to say that. That's another argument. If I'm not allowed, I mean there are ways of doing it, but like generally, you just finish your coffee, you talk for a little bit. Sitting in that's where I'm no longer present. Now I'm uncomfortable. Let me tell you where I'm not uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Where if we're on this date, and these are tools that I've learned and people learn, is you're on this date, and to be able to acknowledge when it really is uncomfortable, where some people would argue what I'm about to say is you shouldn't say, that makes people uncomfortable.
Okay.
What I'm saying is it's the antithesis of that,
Okay.
which is I don't like getting coffees normally because I don't know how to get out. And not that I necessarily want to get out. I don't know if you think I'm joking all that. I don't know if the vibe sucks.
Yeah.
You know? And like, if that person is, and uncomfortable with that, then that is uncomfortable. But if they're like, I felt it too. It's just that you're so different from your Instagram and you are joking a lot. And it's like, yeah, no, I do. Now I'm not telling you about my brother and what I majored in. Now we're talking about ourselves and the way we perceive things and our communication tools.
Uh-huh.
And I find that a lot of times you cannot connect on a even moderately deep level if you're not willing to be uncomfortable, unless it's over time you get to know each other. But it's so much easier to, like, people bond in war or in sport, in competition, in fights, because there's something, you're there together. So I just find that uncomfort, I have been conditioned to see uncomfort as an opportunity to be honest, because, well, fuck it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I think you want me to give you my analysis of what you're saying?
Okay.
It sounds like you like to be in control of the way people communicate around you. And like, I think that's interesting if the thing goes the way that you game theoried it out, right? Which is that you get really real at the cost of both your and their comfort. So, you say, I'm not here. I'm not feeling this. This seems weird. You're not connecting with me. And your hope, I don't know if this is your hope, but in your example, you said, then she finally has this opportunity to go, yeah.
I want to argue that.
Because I felt uncomfortable too.
That was an arbitrary example of if in this thing, because we were talking about, if you're not feeling the vibe. That was me saying, if I'm not feeling the vibe.
Right.
It might be something, it might be that I don't like the taste of this coffee. I want to go someplace else, but this was your favorite coffee spot. I mean,
Sure.
It could be anything.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, if that goes down, where the recipient of your bluntness, I guess, for lack of a better term, of your directness about how you're feeling, your
Honesty.
presence-ness, your honesty, yeah, but we all know honesty.
It's not an excuse to be. I'm not saying honesty saying I'm going to say it at all costs. I'm just saying honesty of like really showing you who I am.
Yeah.
You know, I went on a date. I went on a date with a girl. It doesn't matter.
No, please.
Went on a date with a girl. I don't love opening the car door for a girl if I'm coming from the driver's side.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I'm lying to them. I'm only showing them a good guy because this is, and I am.
You saw it in a movie.
And this isn't what I did. Right. So I don't do it.
Yeah.
If somebody were to say to me, hey, I really like it when a guy opens the car, then I will do it because you want me to, not because this is who I am. And we're on the 4th date, maybe. And she had said something about, I don't remember exactly how it came about, but something happened with not opening the car door for her. And I said, would you like me to open the car door for you? I absolutely will. She's like, well, I just think you should have. And, you know, at least when we're getting to know each other, and then you don't have to do it later, but at least at the beginning, it's nice to, and I thought that was so contradicting. So you want me to pretend to be something for the first 3 weeks and then not be anymore?
Right.
I'm not arguing that opening is right or wrong. I'll do that for you if that's what you want. But this idea that you're supposed to do this to show me.
But are you aware that there is a behavioral convention that women sometimes expect the guy to open the car door?
And the whole point of what I was saying is this idea of expectation.
Right,
I want them to be on the table.
Yeah, but you're not putting them on the table. You have decided that that's a bullshit interaction, which I don't disagree with you about, by the way. I think
I at the beginning, I say, when I go on a date, at the first date, I go and either I don't open the door or I do. If we're coming from the driver's side, I do. Excuse me, the passenger side, I do. And then if I'm walking this way past the passenger side and I'm already there, I'll get the door.
Yeah.
And then I'll say what I'm about to say now, or I won't. And I say, I'm not quite sure about the door opening. And it's not usually something I do, but it's something you like. Would you let me know and I'll be happy to do it. So I do ask.
Yeah. Anyway, a lot of what I am hearing right now is that you don't like bullshit. You like to be real and be honest, right? You don't cotton to behavioral expectations that feel valueless to you.
They feel valueless. Some of them I understand. Some of you go, oh, you look lovely.
But
you say that.
But a lot of it is in the service of you kind of being in control of what good communication is. You kind of you are the maitre d' of realness. And to me, a lot of that sounds like it could be difficult because let's say you're dating a woman who is as intelligent as you, right?
Is she hot?
She's so hot, and her boobs feel like sandbags and a brand new football. So she's going to be aware. She's going to be aware of what it is that you're doing, right?
What am I doing?
Decide. No. You are not just being, you're kind of inserting these rules of realness into your interaction. And and to be fair to you, that is who you are.
Right.
So you're supposed
to
But
I'm not controlling hers.
It sounds to me like you are socially engineering the way communication is supposed to go.
Yes.
And
I get what you're saying.
And to me that, I understand the efficacy of it. Because you're Rick, you're you, and if a person doesn't respond to the way that you like to communicate, then it's going to be a long fucking road, you know. But spending a half hour pretending that you're having a good time versus getting really real and like hopefully forcing out of that woman her realness, well, they're both choices, and you already know there's not. Are you attempting to scare up an emotional connection with her?
No. I'm not there looking for uncomfort. I'm saying I'm not dodging it.
Yeah.
The reality is,
but you are engendering it as well.
What does that mean?
You are creating it for her.
No.
You've decided, yes, I think.
Maybe I'm misunderstanding that.
I think that in the interaction that you're describing, you have decided that you're down to risk her comfort because you don't like bullshit so much that you're willing to let her feel uncomfortable because you've decided that the value of honesty is so paramount that whether or not she would want that doesn't matter. You got to be real.
It matters. And there are ways and tools to learn. So I did feel that way without realizing it. I didn't realize that you're uncomfortable because I'm not, so you're not.
Right.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
As I've learned more about this and asked questions, did what I just say seem aggressive, by the way? Mm-hmm. You know, like checking in when I realized maybe I just did something. There are tools to it. I also learned that's obviously what comedy has always been to me, is finding a playful way of communicating these things that are direct.
Sure.
That's why people don't know if I'm joking or I'm serious, because they're not mutually exclusive.
Well, what's interesting about comedy is that you're allowed to create discomfort on purpose, and you're the master. You are the master. And that is why it's interesting to me, based on what you're saying. that you're a comedian, because that is the ultimate communicative control. That's the whole thing.
That's within the past 5 years I've learned that's what that is. That's where what got you into this? What was the reason? You know, I wasn't bullied.
Right.
It was that.
You like to be the master of the control of the communication.
Well, it started with I wanted to be able to at least be part of it.
Yeah,
because I wasn't.
Because when you grew up, you were what? You were not welcomed into social circles or something like that, kind of a thing.
I've talked about it in the podcast, and I don't want to go too deep into this with the me stuff right now.
Yeah.
But yes, I didn't know it though, at least not consciously. I never knew I didn't realize until like 5 years ago I didn't have friends. Because nobody was mean to me. Nobody said, I just wasn't included in things, and like, oh, I wasn't.
You mean growing up or even now?
Growing up.
I see. Gotcha.
Growing up. I mean, yeah, kind of. Didn't really have friends.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, I can relate to that in a way. I think your pathology, I don't mean, I'm not trying to pathologize you, even though I literally did that, feels slightly different, but your desire feels resonant to me. Because like, I grew up, you know, my parents are deaf. This is not two truths and a lie. My parents are deaf. My dad was a Hasidic Jew. My mom was like a agnostic hippie. Grew up in the Bay Area in a pretty much all black community, all black public schools. One of the lone white kids. I grew up being, you know, assailed with psychiatric ailments and learning disabilities and all this. So every part of my life was about feeling like I wasn't quite. You know what I'm saying? Like I wasn't quite black enough. I wasn't deaf enough. I wasn't hearing enough. I wasn't Jewish enough. Everything was like not quite. And so everything always felt like a lack of ability to insert the meanness into my meanness.
Me, not mean. Moshe.
Meanness into society. And so I can and just wanting to be heard. Right? I mean, if you want to get really pathological and psychiatric, just wanting to be heard, you know? So when I got a laugh in those all black classrooms in front of Hasidic Jews, all of it, when I could make people laugh, I could say, I control the energy. I have power.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even about not connecting socially with people. It was about like, I can affect at any point that I want, control and power. And yeah, I found that, I'm sure, on stage.
I didn't know that your parents were deaf. It all makes so much sense now.
Which part?
I'm just joking.
Everything.
Like that was
quantum theory.
Yes. Now I understand one simulation. The be heard, my version of that is to be understood.
Right.
And always had different, like, these people were nice and then they weren't. You know, I'm playing outside of the neighbors, but then when everyone's going in their house, they're like, Ricky, you're not allowed to come in. And like me not knowing why do things keep changing like that? It made me not believe people. And
can I ask a question?
Yes.
You have autism, right?
Yes.
And part of that, correct me if I'm getting any of this wrong, part of that is being unable to correctly read social cues. That's part of it.
That's a fine version of it.
Is it a fair thing to say?
Difficulty picking up on social cues, facial expressions, unspoken things.
So was there a part of it also where you were like gaslighting yourself? Like you don't even know.
I didn't know that I didn't know then. I wasn't aware that I was unaware. I didn't realize that there were things that I was missing.
It just didn't feel great.
It wasn't until the thing was directly, I just said this example because it's one that's a visceral one to me.
Yeah.
Because I didn't understand. I'm playing at a kid who lives nearby. We're all playing basketball outside and we're all friends and we're all friends with each other. And then we go inside, they're going in and then it stopped at the door and he's like, you're not allowed in my house.
What was it about?
I don't know. I only remember the memory. I don't know.
Got it.
Either he didn't like me that much, but he couldn't say no because his mom told him not to, or his mom didn't like me and I wasn't allowed in the house. Right. Whatever it may have been, that's relevant. But the point I'm making is I had no idea. So wait, what just happened? So now I'm knocking all the time and asking if you could play, and as opposed to just like, this guy doesn't like you, dude.
Right.
You know, and I didn't.
You desired hey, the vibes aren't here in the coffee shop. of your youth?
I very, very, very much. If someone were to say to me, Rick, I don't like you because, I then, 1, know, 2, have the opportunity to fix that with you, and 3, have the opportunity to recognize that in a future relationship or situation.
All right, I have a theory now. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
So I think that the reason, I mean, this doesn't even seem that deep. This seems obvious. The reason that you like to affect that control on others is you're trying to give them the gift that you felt like was withheld from you.
I know exactly what this is, and that's kind of it, but it's not so intentional.
Well, what I'm saying is, and I hate that I
No, don't.
It feels like I'm
This is what
psychoanalyzing
you are.
Okay,
And this
yeah,
is
I guess
something
I
you
am.
like to do, and you're doing
No,
it.
it's not.
Of course
You
it
can
is.
Psychoanalyze me too.
If you know the word, you enjoy doing it. Go ahead.
But most people don't want that.
Don't want what?
They don't want to be made to feel uncomfortable. They
No,
don't want you to
you have made something up and gave weight to this idea of wanting to feel comfortable as if
you brought it up.
No, I don't want that. I'm just saying, okay, if it's a little cold outside, I'll put on a jacket. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm saying I need it to be snowing. I'm just saying it's one of the feelings that exists that people have decided is such a challenging thing. When I'm saying it's just a thing. I'm not saying I want it, and when I said it's an opportunity, I don't mean like I'm gifting this to you. I'm just saying I'm just offering a perspective of like, you know, when people say, you know, failure is actually learning how not to do something. Not that people want to fail, but it's like it's not that. I mean, depending on what it is, it's like it's just a thing that is guaranteed.
Right. I feel that.
And what I'm wanting is, though I have to concede, perhaps there is some need for control. When I say some, there's got to be at least some, but perhaps it's bigger than that. But what I think I'm doing, at least my intention, because this is a choice that I have made within the past 5 years, is when I became more aware of myself and how I'm being received, I learned that there are ways I need to communicate different and ways I need to, I'm being received in a way that I didn't realize. What do I mean? How do I say this differently or offer this differently? Also, I want to offer other people an opportunity, should they want to learn how to communicate with me in a way that I could receive it properly.
Yeah.
And there's a better connection. And I find that by being genuine, and this isn't just me, everyone has their version of it, genuine to who they are, it does offer a safety to the other person to do the same. And
yeah, I guess I don't know why I'm just disagreeing with you, but it feels like a fun back and forth. I'm not sure that it feels a bit paternalistic to offer somebody an opportunity, especially in a first date context.
You're taking this out of context.
Okay.
And if it's my fault for using the term offering an opportunity, then let me say I made a mistake and explain it differently. I'm saying for all parties, myself included, my family, anybody, I just am sharing a perspective that I have that oftentimes being uncomfortable isn't a bad thing. It's an opportunity. I'm not gifting you an opportunity.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to make you. I want you to think I'm the funniest, most charming person in the world. I don't want you to feel like this. All I'm saying is sometimes that happens.
Sure.
And instead of running away from it, and to then be like, sit in it for a second and feel it, because it's not a problem a lot of the time.
I agree with that. I agree with what you're saying. No, I do.
So much.
No, it's true. I think you're right. I think that desire that I had to not have small talk was kind of a similar thing. It's like, what are you running from exactly? Are you running from real communication, or are you, I mean, what is discomfort? What is so terrifying about something that isn't fun?
It may have made you feel uncomfortable to tell people you're fine when you're not, because it's disrespectful to the memory of your dad.
Yeah.
Whatever your reasons and intentions are, don't have to be in line with the other person's. The truth is, however you get there, if you're able to be genuine and honest, not in spite of the other person's comfort, but not being challenged because of it.
Can I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
Do you warn people?
Mm-hmm.
You do. Like
Now.
if you do. You say, hey, I'm a person that sometimes can be a little blunt or a little bit like communicating with me might be unusual because I like to I have a different way of communicating than some people.
Yeah,
Or some,
I mean,
some version of that.
A version of that, and oftentimes it's less about bluntness and more about silliness.
I joke a lot.
Yeah, I know you do.
I do. I mean,
I know you do. Were you saying that about me? Because you do. I'm just pulling up the text between us.
Yeah.
I say, see you tomorrow. Bring a gift. Something I want. Something cool.
Yeah.
You wrote, then today I said, hey, I'm ready earlier if you want to come by. And you said, be there soon. No gift. I said, all that works. You said, I couldn't tell how serious that was. Part of the consequence of always joking. While some of me, only some of me now, when I was younger would have been most of me. Now only some of me is like, you didn't know I was joking about bringing a gift? The majority of me knows this always happens. It doesn't matter what the variable is. This one, it's bring a gift. Whatever the thing is, I used to figure, I know it's a joke, so you know it's a joke.
Sure.
And now I know, just because I know it's a joke, there's actually a pretty good chance you don't. That one, I mean, there's no stakes to that, so who cares?
Of course. No, I have a thing that I have become used to in my life, which is, and I'm sure you do too, I feel like almost every comedian knows this feeling, which is that my humor charms people 99% of the time. But, oh no, I'm just, I'm not saying
Do you want to give a more realistic?
I don't know. A lot of the majority.
90.
The majority of the time. But there is this look that I have learned over the years of my life, which is, it's not quite that blunt, but it's like, oh, here's a person for whom I am fucking oil to their water. Like the opening joke, I see it and I go,
you see it right away.
I'm not your flavor at all.
Could you give me an example? I'll say a line to you and you give me the face. Oh, it's nice to be doing a podcast that nobody cares about. Oh, that's pretty big.
That was big? Maybe I'm not as good of an actor. Maybe I should have gone to Yale. Okay, hold on. Let me try again.
Oh, crossing your legs like me. I guess we're twins.
Is that big?
I don't know.
It's this feeling of a person going,
not for
the
me.
Product, yes, the product you are offering is not one that I consume. And I don't, at this point in my life, don't.
You could pick it up that fast?
I can sense it instantly. And I don't, it doesn't, it used to bother me, but now I don't, it doesn't bother me. It almost feels like beautiful. It's like, oh, thank you for the information. I'll steer clear of doing bits with you and we won't have that relationship.
Thank you for the information. I get.
I just mean I'm not going to adjust my selfness for them. I'm just going to move on because this is not going to be.
That's why you FaceTime.
I like that. Yeah, so you can get it out of the way on a digital interface.
Yeah. I also. Am I cutting you off? Go on.
No, please.
Also, there is a safety that the other person feels. If to not even say better, although I think it is, at least a different version of it, where. I mean, there's so many different safeties. There's the idea that a woman might feel physically safer not next to somebody they don't know. I mean, there could be, I don't know the people and the traumas or the experience that they've had, but I just know that a lot of them are mitigated by them not being in the same room.
Right.
Which also allow them, I think, to
be more real with you.
Yeah, to not feel the need to have a certain kind of posture, right?
Because you're right. First dates, second dates, third dates, a lot of it is a dance. It's a performance and not a real performance. You're like trying to get through layers, sedimentary layers to get to the person that you're actually going to interact with.
And this isn't just romantic relationships. This is any type of friendship that when you're meeting somebody.
By the way, it happened in real time on this podcast.
When?
I would say the first half hour of us was just, us sniffing each other's butts and performing. And then we kind of clicked into a different.
That's the beauty of comedy. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think of comedy literally as a language that when other people don't speak it, or at least if they don't understand it, I have a very, very hard time connecting with them.
Same here. Give me somebody funny over somebody cool.
Yeah, because otherwise, we just don't speak the same language.
Yeah.
It's not even that you're bad, although you're probably boring if you're not funny.
Right.
But like, I don't know what to do with this.
Well, it's interesting. Like I teach my kid, my kid has learned.
How old?
She's now about to be 5.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
January 18th?
Today is her birthday. And I'm here with you. but I teach my kid like, hey, love is expressed through humor. You know, she understands sarcasm not because I'm trying to indoctrinate her, but because it's the like you're saying, it's the language that she's being given from me and Natasha. Like she understands things don't always mean what they mean. She understands making fun of someone is a part of loving them. You know, and that's because she's been kind of indoctrinated into this language, which is humor. We were at a friend's house about a year ago, and the pizza. And the pizza, we ordered pizza, and Natasha said to the kid, who's my kid's age, "Oh yeah, all the pizza's for us. You guys don't get any. The kids don't get any." Right? Kid starts bawling because he wasn't indoctrinated.
Like hooping.
Yeah, he starts straight bawling.
All right, we don't need pizza.
Yeah, I wasn't even hungry. And then we realized that kid was LeBron James, and he was a full-grown man.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and it wasn't a kid.
But the point you're making is he doesn't know that language yet.
He's never learned that language, so he starts crying, and Natasha's like, oh my God, what have I done? Because in our family, you don't get any of the pizza. That means you can have as much pizza as you want. We love you. Haha, let's have some fun.
Right. Because you love Devil's Advocate so much.
Yeah.
Is there something to...
No, I don't.
Oh, never mind.
I wouldn't say that about myself.
Well, you were wanting to do it.
No, I don't think so. Just to give you a different perspective on that.
Well, when you hit, just to give you a different perspective, were you kind of like defining the game right now?
Yeah, a little bit. I was bawling like LeBron.
Because I'm there with you.
Like that child LeBron. No, because I like Devil's Advocate.
Are you teaching your kid to lie? Or are you teaching your kid not to trust people?
Well, no, say more. What do you mean? You think
when your kid hears all the pizzas for me, that means he could have as much as he wants. What happens when he's someplace where
First of all, don't misgender my child. She's a girl. We've decided.
Could I misgender your girl?
Yeah, that's fine.
When she's someplace and says, you know, these are all for the adults, or these are all for the kids in the other class, or whatever.
Yeah.
When she's not thinking, they're all for me.
That's interesting. It's not so much.
Thank you.
It's not so much that I'm teaching her to lie. It's that I'm giving her false systems of reality. Where
that's what I'm saying, or to not trust.
She goes,
great. Other people.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, when somebody's being sincere, she's like, oh yeah, fuck you too. It's like no.
Because that is something that I had to learn. That I got better at way late. Is when to say, oh, by the way, I'm joking, or I'm being like, when to say this. Hold on a second. I want to get back to being serious.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, speaking of that look that I identify, that's really big.
I just thought I had a sneeze.
I have learned how to say to people, and I'm sure it sounds like you're good at this too, I'm sorry, I'm a person that makes jokes, and sometimes I make a lot of jokes, and sometimes they don't hit the right way. I apologize.
Yeah,
if I'm not your flavor.
Yeah, I say I miss often, or I miss my dismount.
Yeah, sure. Because I think people deserve that too. It's like, look, it's not you. You're not a stick in the mud just because you don't find my flavor to be. It's like
also sometimes you might not have a palate for it yet. There might be something. Oh, he's joking.
Yeah, totally.
And I've learned his one language. Little thing. And now, yeah, you could get it.
Now they get your personality. I have had that happen where somebody, I'm like, this person is turned off by me eventually. And I've had it in reverse. I had a friend, I've had friends who they went so hard on jokes in the beginning that I found distasteful. That I was like,
distasteful the amount of jokes or the type of jokes?
Probably the type. I'm thinking of one example in particular.
I could get turned off right away by a type of joke.
Yeah, and I was just like, this dude sucks. And then I got to know the person,
right?
And then I do his podcast. No, I'm joking.
I appreciate you being here.
No, but then I get to know the person. I go, okay, you know what? He was performing for me. He was trying to be cool. He was trying to be funny. That wasn't my type of joke, but it doesn't really matter because actually I've realized he's a good person.
Yeah, I've been on the other end of that many times. I know what you're saying.
I've definitely been on the other end of it too, where I mean, that look is what I'm describing. That person having the same reaction to me. So yes.
Sometimes I'll be, because also maybe a little bit more than you, but almost every time I'm charming and liked.
You'd say 99.9.
I would say 98 for me and 90 something, low 90s for you.
Low 90, jeez. But
it's great.
When we went to La Jolla, I feel like my average was higher.
Yeah, well, you were in your prime and I was just getting started.
It was a long pandemic too. I'm a little out of practice.
I still think you're good.
Thanks, man. But you haven't seen me since 2011.
Yeah, but I've seen other people.
Yeah.
And
I've seen other Jews. A lot of them are funny. Go ahead.
Sometimes I'll be in the pocket
on stage. You're talking about?
No, I mean,
So- anywhere.
I'm saying it's different. Stage is different because it's isolated to that set.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
Where you're in a social. Are you okay with time?
Yeah.
You're in a group of people,
Yeah.
and like you're just where people would be giving a look or not. You know,
Yeah.
and I'm being funny and I'm doing it, and I've said to myself, sometimes out loud, more so in my head, chill out, dude.
Yeah.
You know, you got best case scenario, it lands again, and then it's the same thing. Why, you know, why just walk away from the table, you know? So there are sometimes
You're winning, dude. Walk
yeah.
away.
So sometimes, and it doesn't mean leave the event, but
No.
sometimes I'll be like,
Let somebody else take a swing.
and here's another one with that's not what I meant, but it was let me stop swinging. But yes, I guess indirectly that is let somebody
Yeah.
else. But that's something I learned late too, which is I'm somebody who when I want to swing, I will.
Yeah.
Hold on, Moshe. Let me say what I was going to say. Like
Yeah.
I'll do that.
Yeah, sure.
I didn't realize that other people who have a great batting average, who hit home runs all the time, they need to be walked to the plate.
Yeah.
They, you know, or the plate needs to be empty for a while before they feel safe to get there. So yeah, there is something. I find a version of kindness that I have learned is offering people their at bats.
Well, that's what a great host is. Not that you're not a great host on this podcast, but like a great host, part of being a great host is being really, really
Another
funny.
thing I think is great.
is being really funny. The other is making other people feel funny so that they can kind of like thrive and do their thing.
Making people feel funny versus giving them the opportunity to be funny. Is there a
Like
difference?
Dave Letterman is the ultimate, I'm going to be the funny guy, right? And like, you know, Conan
I was gonna say Conan is the
guy who's like,
biggest of.
he'll give it
Yeah,
to
yeah.
you. So, you know, I used to, when we would do at midnight, I always thought Hardwick was so good at laughing at your jokes because the more the host, even though he's like socially as a friend, you don't feel like, oh, he's the host. But on the show, it's his house, his domain.
Mm-hmm.
The more he's laughing, the more you're going, oh shit, I'm doing well, you know? And then the next joke you make, that's very good. The next joke you make will be funnier because you're feeling the wind kind of beneath your sails or whatever.
Yeah. Barbara Streisand, Wings.
Wings. Actually, that was
Midler.
Paul McCartney.
Right.
Wings.
John Michael, when I say when it's Bette Midler, put up Wind Beneath My Wings, the song, and when he says it, put up Paul McCartney's band after the Beatles, Wings.
Yeah.
And you could leave this in
Ram.
so people get a little bit behind the scenes.
Yeah, you could put Ram there. That's my favorite Wings song.
Do you think that your awareness of being too much, whatever that version is, joking when you don't need to be, being misunderstood, etc. Do you think that now or I guess first, do you have new tools? And if so, what are they? And when do you implement them?
Well, the truth is that as I've gotten older, I need it less. And so I need the attention, the kill factor in social situations less. A lot of it is because I've spent a long period of my life on stage, and that's where I get to do well and get laughs and have control. And so in interpersonal, I've noticed about myself in interpersonal interactions, I'm trying to kill less unless I'm in like the right group. Like I can chill out on my own. Does that make sense? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
I don't need it as much socially.
Okay. So the reason you were doing it is because you needed it. For what?
I don't know. I've gotten older and I find myself doing it less. And so the way that I read that is when I was younger, I needed more attention. I needed more laughs constantly to make me feel like validated, funny,
Right.
you know, and I just don't find that I need to do that as much. But when I'm doing it in a situation where it's really fun, then, you know, the best feeling is not when I'm crushing in front of a group of people socially.
It's when everyone's laughing.
The best feeling is when everybody's crushing.
I love be able to be funny and be able to be in the audience.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
feel that way about Brent Morin. I don't know if you guys are friends at all.
Yeah.
He just has, you know, some people have some people, they just work for you with a lot of things they do. And he'll just, we're being funny, and then he'll just do something. And I've just caught myself like sitting on the couch watching him, and he'll like literally stand up and like go to the front of the room or whatever. And it's just like, when I leave, like I felt so good tonight.
Yeah, that's nice.
It feels so, but the point of that is to say laughing and making other people laugh though I understand there's something of, at least sometimes, wanting the attention and or validation. But isn't there also something to where like, this is just the best use of my time. This is where I feel the best. This is where I filled with the most dopamine. Like,
that's interesting that you equate getting the most dopamine to the best use of your time, because a lot of people wouldn't. That's a very comedian perspective, right? It's like, this is where I'm going to get fed, as opposed to this is the best use of my time.
Well, there's other obligations, the things you have to do. But if my goal for the evening is to relax and or be distracted and or have a good time, you know, not like best use of my time, I could be working out or writing or helping somebody.
Sure.
But you know what I'm saying?
This
like,
is how I'm going to squeeze the fun out of this.
I could watch a show. I could go for a walk. I could laugh and make people laugh. That is definitely something I seek. Thus, I don't quite connect to, I was always told that I need to, often told that like I need to be the center of attention. I get how that was definitely part of it. But this is just the language. I want to be funny. I want people to be funny. I want that friendship, you know? So I don't think I get that I'm less as I've gotten older.
Yeah. And that's
where I need the tools to be like, I don't want to annoy people.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not even saying doing bits a lot is good or bad. I just noticed about me as I've gotten older that I need to do that less. And I used to need to do it more. Because
Natasha's so funny and you guys are partners in many different ways, do you think you have it at hand?
You think, I don't know. I think I've always equated it to, honestly, what I've equated it to is the longer I've been able to be a successful comic and do it on stage for like an hour at a time kind of a thing, that I just need it less.
Laughing? You need laughing less?
I just am getting that part of my dopamine desire tickled already.
But are you laughing that much on stage?
Oh, for me laughing?
Yeah, doing bits with people is about you laughing too.
Oh, no, I want that more than ever.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I want that more than ever.
But when other people are making you laugh, you're also
sure. I was, yes, I 100%. There's no better feeling on earth than when your friends are making you laugh so hard.
This is what I'm getting at.
Absolutely.
And I'm grateful for a lot of things, and near the top of the list is that I have some of the funniest friends in the world. You know, relatively speaking, this is what we do for a living at least. But there's still something where I don't know when I'm being too much. I mean, I'm great. I'm much better at it now. But that's what I'm getting at. These tools are, as somebody who you connected with me on Always Joking, I have to imagine a lot of your friends who maybe make you laugh aren't that same way, because mine aren't.
What do you mean? Other comedians?
A lot of the people in my group aren't the type of people who have the stigma of, oh, this person's always on.
Ah, got it.
I do have that stigma.
Yeah.
And I think I've been casted as it from a while ago, even though I don't want it anymore. But
right.
it carries with me.
Well, always on becomes annoying.
But you said that about yourself, about Always Joking.
I don't know that I've ever been an always on type.
Okay.
I think all comedians, and I think always on is probably just the furthest iteration of it. I think all comedians have this thing where it's like, you know, almost every comedian I know started trying to get laughs long before they started trying to do stand-up, right? And there was something about stand-up that was like, oh, I can kind of, you know, I can forget monetize. I can emotionally monetize this thing. You know, I can kind of like, it can be me. It's not just something that I'm using. It can be my whole identity and reality. And so I think that's different than being always on. I mean, I think always on is like, to me, always on, you know who was the ultimate always on?
Robin Williams.
Yeah. And I've been in green rooms with him where I felt like, wow, he won't let this just be chill. Like,
right.
And he's Robin fucking Williams. He's like the biggest movie star. He's like my hero. And to me, it felt like we could let this breathe a little bit.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know. I think that's almost different in a way. I don't feel like I ever had that.
I misunderstood with you saying people not knowing if you're joking or serious as being synonymous with always on.
I think they're different.
Yeah, I understand.
But it's funny.
Are you being
I'm
serious?
I'm actually was about to say, I'm making an incredibly subtle distinction between being always on and always joking. I feel like I'm always joking, but not always on. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I think you're thinking on being big energy.
Or just being like, there's got to be a constant flow. No, always joking is like, what I'm saying, I'm almost always being fun, trying to be funny.
But you might not always be talking.
I might not always be saying it. Yeah,
right. A very subtle difference.
Yeah. And so I think when I say as I've gotten older, I need it less, I think that I'm talking less.
Right. It's like somebody who has the highest free throw percentage in the NBA, but he's only shot 8 free throws. It's like, well, listen, I'm not shooting him a lot.
The guy's a shooter. He's not a very active player, but the guy's a shooter. Yeah.
When he does, it's usually a joke. Right. There's also something to, and I think I'm being defensive here, but most of my interactions with comedians are at comedy clubs because I'm only close with a few amount of them to where you have the, that's what another reason I like this podcast is I've felt validated in meeting people who have told me like, oh, I didn't realize you weren't the worst, or the most annoying, you know what I mean?
That's such a specific form of validation. Like, I didn't realize that you weren't the awful person I thought you were. And you're
know what I'm saying when I say awful.
No,
I mean, just being,
yeah.
Because when you're at a comedy club, at least for me, like I'm trying
more.
And also like I'm wanting to I don't want, because otherwise a lot of times I'm just out.
Yeah, no, I totally understand what you're saying. I keep thinking about this feeling because we're talking about the feelings of getting laughs. I keep thinking about the feeling of being on a live podcast and not doing well, because that's a particular kind of panic. It happens on TV too, but TV's so weird that like podcasting, you're a little bit more yourself, and you're on a live podcast. And your job is to keep swinging, right? It's not to dominate, but it's to, when you talk, make the people laugh.
Set up or knock down.
Do something, exactly. Yeah. And so the feeling of being on a live podcast in front of an audience and tossing out like 3 jokes in a row that don't land, now you're in this panic because you're like, okay, I've got a couple choices here. I can keep trying, or I can give up. And keep trying could be worse than giving up, because if I'm now on.
Could be keep trying could be the giving up. I know this isn't going to work.
Yeah, or maybe you're just in your head, and maybe the joke 4 will turn it around, and everybody will start to laugh. And it's like, what exactly do you do in that situation? Because you were hired, or you were asked to be on the podcast to talk. You weren't hired to like be like, oh, you guys aren't into this? Okay, I'm gonna retreat into the recesses of my mind. What do you think?
I think you're hired to show up.
No. If you come to my podcast and you just sit, I've had that happen, and it's fucking annoying.
I don't mean show up as in just physically be there. I mean, and I pardon me for this sounding corny, or if you thought I was joking before, now you realize I'm not. To show up authentically.
Yeah.
To show up and be the thing that you are. And sometime, let me give an analogy. You watch a TV show or a movie and you see somebody's crying and their eyes are filling with water and then they blink so the tear could go down their face.
Yeah.
You're lying to me.
Sure.
You don't have to be having tears go down your face for me to believe you. You need to believe it.
Yeah.
And if somebody believes what they're doing, and if that's being authentic, and if they show up, and if you're fucking in it and you have 9 jokes in a row and they're hitting, you're gonna shoot a lot more.
Absolutely.
And if you're not, there's nothing wrong with just sitting there, and then if somebody says something to you, be like, I fucking missed 3 in a row. I'm not, you know what I mean? Like,
that's true, and that's very authentic, and I like that.
I think that's our job.
Yeah. I feel that, but nobody wants to watch a person retreat and surrender in real time. Like, they want you to kill. It's funny because like I always think it's funny if somebody doesn't like a joke you made, like, because it's like, oh, I was only ever trying to
like offended or just didn't think it was funny.
Like offended, or you're trying to, or what? It's like, I was only ever trying to hit a home run. No one was ever like, I'm gonna throw this one out there and it's really gonna piss some people off. Like, no comedian wants
I think some do.
Maybe some comedians do. Yeah. I would say, it's Comedy Store circa, like right when we started going, there was a high percentage of people like, funny secondary. Primarily is gonna be
Let me tell you how it is, because this is what I want to tell you.
Yeah, but for me, and it sounds like for you too, all I ever want is
Absolutely.
to make the person listening have a great experience and have a good time.
That's why when we're talking about like, oh, the king of making people uncomfortable.
Did I say that about you?
You made the joke that people said that about behind my back.
I see.
But
yes.
what I have heard
That's
is like,
how we got
I
down
love
here.
making people uncomfortable. And it's like, I want everybody to be in on this.
Yeah.
But a byproduct of what's happening is if they're not, then this is the feeling they're having.
Yeah.
Sometimes, you know, when people aren't funny, they just don't laugh. Sometimes people aren't funny, now they're offended. Sometimes if something, and that all comes to this too, like if it's funny, it's fine. I mean, we can concede
Right.
at least more times than not.
Sure, absolutely.
But if it's not, what happens? This guy isn't funny. This guy is bad at what he does. This guy is annoying. This guy is evil. Like there's all these things if it's a misunderstanding. But like, yeah, most of it's like this joke could have been a different variable and the same exact math and joke to me. But now you think I'm making fun of Democrats or Republicans or women or men.
Well,
I could have made it about rabbits or Mars.
Well, we've all had that experience of being in the middle of it. I mean, you're not, I don't consider you a particular, again, I haven't seen you in a decade, but I don't consider you a particularly like offensive comedian.
Thank you.
I think that's true, right? But everybody's okay, well, that's different. I mean, that's your new style, and I haven't seen it in a while. We've all had that experience of you're like you do one joke, and it's about veterinarians, and everybody, ha, ha, ha. And then you do another joke, and it's about, Tahitians, ha, ha, ha. And then you do a third joke, and it's about the Irish, and somebody in the audience is like, hey, I'm Irish. It's like, well, wait.
What about the Tahitians?
Yeah, you were just laughing all the way down the line. Like, so to me, that is the self-centeredness of the human being receiving the joke.
Yes. You know, first they came for the Jews.
Yes.
You know,
and I said nothing.
Yeah, and then they came for the Tahitians. And
I
the
said
Jews
nothing
weren't
'cause
there to help them.
And I was on the beach.
Right, of course.
And I was having a sex on the beach.
Yes.
I think I have to go.
Yeah, this was great. We already have your dates from before.
The dates that don't even matter.
Well, they matter because we'll have New Year's and if you have anything in January.
New Year's Eve will be fun.
But
I'll be at the San Francisco Sketch Fest too if you want to come see me there. But anyway, whatever. Who cares?
We put it up.
Throw them up.
But plug anything else. Your Instagram, a website that you go to.
You can find me at Reddit/Public Freakout, at Reddit/Justice Served.
Is this
at
true?
Reddit. Well, that's where I am a lot. I look World Star Hip Hop. These are all
Always joking,
websites.
dude.
These are, I know, and I feel pathetic and I feel vulnerable. But honestly, thank you for the opportunity to be real and be honest with you.
I'm going to take a Polaroid of you, and we'll put his Instagram and everything up.
But yeah, what am I doing? I'm on the road doing stand up. I'm doing a lot of TV writing, development stuff. So there's nothing to say yet. But I do have a book coming out next year, and I'm very excited about that.
Your second book.
I'll come back.
What's the book?
It's a book about my. It's another memoir, but it's about the different subcultures I've been a part of in my life. And so each segment of the book is like one half comedic history of that subculture. And then at a certain point in the history, I intersect with the history and it becomes my story within that subculture.
And when is it out?
Next year, at some point. I'm still in the process of going back and forth with the editor.
Well, in the meantime, read Casher and the Rye.
Yeah, you can read Casher and the Rye. That's always available on Amazon. Get it for this holiday season. It's a banger. Did you ever read it?
No.
You
I haven't read a book.
You don't have to read it. Why did I say you should read it?
Is it on tape?
I didn't mean to even put you on the spot like that.
I didn't feel.
But it
didn't feel on the spot.
it is on.
Do you
on
narrate
tape.
it?
Yeah, I do narrate it.
Yeah, I think I might do that.
It's good. I'm proud of it.
I
I'm
might
very
do that
proud
for
of it.
car rides.
Yeah, I think you'd like it because it really describes a lot of what we were talking about earlier. That feeling of a lot of it. It ends when I'm 15 years old. The book ends when I'm 15. It's a very specific kind of memoir, and it really
Amazing memory of you.
goes deep. Well, memory's interesting, Rick. One of the main thing that I realized about memory in writing a memoir, and if you ever have you written a book?
No.
You should.
As you write, you learn, you remember?
You don't understand that you have memories that you think are gone, but they're there, and all they require is for you to turn your brain around and jump in.
Yeah, I've discovered that with therapy.
It's interesting, isn't it? Like your memory really does preserve things, and our job as conscious beings is to not go there. And when you stop and turn around and go, I want to go there, all this stuff starts coming out. All this detail, all these memories start coming out.
I really liked this. I liked sniffing your butt for a little bit first. I think that's not seeing how it's going to be. I think that's essential. I think it's calibrating.
I had a good experience too, Rick, because I was able to tell you the truth. And maybe you provided me that opportunity. But at a certain point, You gifted that to me, and I would like to go on a second date.
Okay. Well, we'd love to have you back when you're ready to push your book. Was it derogatory to say push?
No, I'll be pushing it. You want to know the segments?
Yeah.
Segments are AA and drug rehab, Hasidic Judaism. You know, my dad was like a hardcore, very intense
And your
Jew.
mother was atheist.
And my mother's atheist.
But they never talked about it.
The rave scene. I was a big rave DJ and rave promoter in the 90s in San Francisco. Burning Man. I've been to Burning Man and worked for Burning Man for like 20 years now.
Rave and Burning Man.
They're separate. They're different.
Okay.
I know that they feel interrelated.
Okay.
In fact, I make the joke of the book. Deafness and sign language interpreting. I was a sign language interpreter for
What does that mean?
This means nothing. Actually, this means...
G-spot.
This can mean wait if it's two hands, or it can mean fire if you go like this. It's
Or it can mean
fire.
applause if you do it like
Applause
this.
is this. Fire is this. Wait is this.
Wait
I'm
as in
done.
hold on, or wait as in a lot of mass?
Wait.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm all done. I'm all done.
Scoot doo, blabbity blue.